Hello and a very warm welcome to Front Page, only on the AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. Well, it's a true pleasure to have you all with us, but before we get into the headlines and what follows are the stories, here is something which is very important for me to share with you. Cypher, India's biggest AI Summit and Expo, is back in its 10th edition. It shall take place in October of this year. The venue is KTPO Bengaluru, and I know that you're very serious about your AI and tech. Well, that pretty much then makes sense that you will be at Cypher 2026. And now, here are the headlines. Karnataka's 200-acre semiconductor park at KWIN City near Bengaluru will become operational in December. Minister MB Patil announced building on 23,000 crore rupees in state investments as Karnataka pushes tech-driven growth beyond Bengaluru to attract global chip makers. India is targeting 5 indigenous small modular nuclear reactors by 2033, including a 220 megawatt Bharat SMR at Tarapur as part of a 20,000 crore rupees push toward 100 gigawatt nuclear capacity by 2047, opening up the sector to private players. Joining us today will be Lyons, semiconductor analyst at Creative Strategies, with our very own Supreeth Koundinya, where they discuss whether NVIDIA should be worried, why Anthropic and OpenAI are happy with AMD, and why AMD's CPU announcement was quite a special one. And of course, the Cerebras announcement that took everyone by surprise. Our tech journalist, Sanjana Gupta, will join us live from the Mysuru Big Tech Show to uncover how Karnataka's beyond Bengaluru vision, rapid startup growth, and surging global investments are shaping Mysuru into India's premier tech hub. Mr. Ashok Chandak, CEO and President of IESA and SEMI India, will be joining me exclusively on Front Page to discuss India's evolving semiconductor revolution, AI chip leadership, global supply chain partnerships, and the roadmap for sovereign chip manufacturing growth, and a lot more, only on Front Page. Now, 9 months ago, Karnataka announced a semiconductor park that existed, well, mostly on paper. But today, the state has put an actual date on when it opens. Well, before we get into the details, we need to put an actual date as to when we can cross 500,000 subscription mark. Yeah, and you can assist us with that by liking, sharing, and subscribing. It truly motivates us. Thank you so much for your kind support. And now, Karnataka's Industries Minister MB Patil confirmed the 200-acre semiconductor park at KWIN City near Bengaluru, which will become operational in December. Yes, this is the same project first announced at last year's Bengaluru Tech Summit. Now, 9 months later, it has now a firm timeline. Now, of course, some context on where this park actually is. KWIN stands for Knowledge, Wellbeing and Innovation City, a larger 5,000-acre development project, of which this 200-acre semiconductor park is one dedicated piece. Now, Patil described the park as designed to be fully equipped with all infrastructure required by semiconductor companies, meant to function as a major innovation hub for chip manufacturing, packaging, testing, and electronics production. Now, at both the state and national level. This park isn't launching into an empty pipeline. Now, over the past 2 years, Karnataka has approved investments worth 23,000 crore rupees in the semiconductor and electronics system design and manufacturing sector itself. Now, that's the capital base this park is meant to give a physical home to. Once operational, it's expected to attract global chip makers, create skilled jobs, and strengthen Bengaluru's position as India's technology capital. Now, here's of course the theme which is running alongside this announcement. Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar has been urging global industry heads to partner with the state, repeating a consistent message, which is that development needs to reach every part of Karnataka, not just concentrate in Bengaluru alone. Now, that's the same logic behind Karnataka's earlier push to seed new industrial hubs in Tier 2 cities alongside cheaper land for companies willing to expand beyond the capital. Now for the macro view. Karnataka's FDI has surged 95% this year, the fastest of any major state. The state has announced India's first government-run AI university, and now the KWIN City Semiconductor Park, which has finally got a December opening date. Now, every piece of Karnataka's tech ambition is converging on the same timeline. The funding, policy, talent, and now physical infrastructure all coming together in the same year. And here, of course, coming together for you is the front page take. Now, we believe Karnataka is turning a tech summit announcement into an actual operational deadline. A 200-acre park, a December date, and 23,000 crore rupees already committed behind it, backing it up. Now, the question I have for you is this. Will KWIN City's Semiconductor Park actually open on schedule this December? Or does Karnataka's ambitious tech park pipeline still face the execution risk that slowed similar projects elsewhere in India? Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the IIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. India's nuclear power story has always been about giant reactors, massive plants, massive budgets, and timelines as well. But today, the government has told the parliament it's betting on something much smaller instead. And you know what we are betting on? Is for you to like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for your kind support. And now for the rest of the story. Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State in the Department of Atomic Energy, informed Parliament that India is aiming to bring at least 5 indigenous small modular nuclear reactors into operation by 2033. Now, this is right alongside and sits inside India's larger goal of reaching 100 gigawatts of nuclear power capacity by 2047, which is up from 8.78 gigawatts as on date. Now, what exactly are these reactors? Let me go ahead and elaborate on that. The Bhabha Atomic Research Center is developing 3 distinct designs: a 220 megawatt Bharat small modular reactor, a 55 megawatt reactor based on pressurized water reactor technology, and a high temperature gas cooled reactor specifically designed to produce hydrogen. Now, the lead units of the BSMR 200 and SMR 55 are planned for Tarapur near Mumbai. Now, the same site that hosted India's very first nuclear power plant more than just 5 decades ago. Now, in principle, approval for engineering and construction has already been received for both the BSMR 200 and the SMR 55. So then the question is, why build small instead of scaling up traditional large reactors? The answer to that is, well, this. Small modular reactors, by international definition, typically produce up to 300 megawatts per module. They're factory built rather than constructed entirely on site, which means faster deployment, lower upfront capital needs, and the flexibility to site them in locations a massive traditional plant couldn't easily justify. Now, India's own expertise in pressurized heavy water reactors makes the country a genuinely natural player in this emerging global SMR race. Now for the funding bit, which is actually in a big way the structural foundation for this ambition. The union budget for 2025-26 allocated 20,000 crore rupees specifically for the design, development, and deployment of small modular reactors. Now, within that, roughly 5,960 crore rupees is proposed for the BSMR 200 alone, and around 7,000 crore rupees for 2 units of the SMR 55. Now, Mr. Singh laid out the broader roadmap, and it went something on those lines. India's current 8.78 gigawatts is expected to reach approximately 22 gigawatts by 2031-32. Now, as projects already under construction are completed. But the remaining 46 gigawatts needed to hit the 2047 target is expected to come from public sector enterprises, state governments, private players, and joint ventures. And of course, then the last detail, which is the real structural shift. Parliament has enacted the Shanti Act 2025, built around the nuclear energy mission, of course. Now, for the first time, this legislation opens India's nuclear energy sector to private participation, a sector that has, for decades as we know, remained almost entirely under government control. Now, small modular reactors are explicitly designed to be the entry point. Now, for that, new private and state government involvement is necessary. And now, of course, for the bird's eye view. India has launched its first hydrogen train built entirely in-house. Then we talk about DRDO, which has flight tested its indigenous Kush air defense missile. And now, India is targeting 5 indigenous small nuclear reactors by 2033. Across rail, defense, and now nuclear energy, India keeps applying the same formula, which is design it here, build it here, and you know what makes us proud? Scale it here. And now, of course, here is the front page take. Now, India is betting on smaller, faster factory-built reactors to do what massive traditional plants alone could not: scale nuclear power fast enough to matter by 2047. And here, of course, is the question for all of you. Can India actually deliver 5 working SMRs by 2033, or does this join a very long list of ambitious energy targets that outrun their own construction timelines? Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Pi project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So just this is the app where you have a Pi cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these automatic these things come automatically. You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
Hello everybody, John with me today is Austin Lyons. He is the semiconductor analyst at Creative Strategies. You've all seen him on the Semi-Doped podcast. Very active figure on Twitter with hot takes. Now, Austin, thanks so much for joining me.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time. We've been at the keynote and I just wanted to ask you, with Anthropic coming into the picture, with one of AMD's newest partners joining in OpenAI, Meta and Microsoft. Firstly, should NVIDIA be worried? And two, do you think this is a result of companies wanting as much compute as they can from different vendors and they ended up choosing AMD as well? Or do you think AMD is genuinely offering really good performance at certain aspects that made them pick AMD?
Yeah, I would say the way I think about it, so to the first question, should NVIDIA be worried? I think this is just natural competition.
Right.
Clearly, AMD's been working on Instinct for a long time. They've been working on making their software better. Clearly, NVIDIA is very well aware of that. So I don't think it changes anything that NVIDIA does. Why do we see Anthropic up there, OpenAI, earlier Meta, Microsoft, like you mentioned? Definitely, I think it's twofold. One, obviously, there's just so much demand that it's another supplier.
Sure.
Of course, you would want to pursue that. And then two, I do think, I think anyone who's buying silicon always wants to know what's out there, and they want to kick the tires and ask, is this something we should be investing in? Historically, there's been more, it required more effort and more investment because the workload that you were running on NVIDIA couldn't easily be ported to AMD or to anyone else for that matter. Clearly, what we heard from the stage today from Anthropic and OpenAI is that it's easier than ever, especially thanks to agentic AI, to port that workload, to move that workload. And so again, it's kind of like if earlier wasn't the time, which clearly everyone's been having conversations with Lisa and team for a while, but even if earlier wasn't the time, now is definitely the time to say we got to invest and try. I think what's exciting for AMD is that we're talking about gigawatt deployments in the back half of 2026 and into 2027. So that's more than just kicking the tires. That's clearly they're truly investing in this.
Right. And of course, that's from a hyperscale sense, right? You mentioned how Tom Brown said they just got one engineer, ran up Claude, and they were able to deploy Helios at much easier than they expected. So, Austin, do you think we'll see more and more shipments and just usage of AMD GPUs via NeoCloud? You pair it up with Cloud Code, we've got Rockham.ai as well, and then you see this certain ease of deployment of AMD GPUs that will also start pumping up the market share above the single digits that we see today.
So that's really good. That's an interesting question. So of course you have hyperscalers who are trying to deploy inference at scale. They need as much compute as possible. Then you have neoclouds who obviously neoclouds, sometimes their customers are the hyperscalers, but other times they are trying to service like new AI labs or enterprises or kind of the rest of the market, if you will. And so I do think that hyperscalers are sort of leading the way on trying AMD, but I would not be surprised to see more neoclouds say, if it works for them, maybe we should consider it too. Maybe we should offer it to our customers. Of course, it gets a little nuanced because a lot of neo clouds have big partnerships with NVIDIA, whether NVIDIA was funding them, or just allocating GPUs to them. But that's something they'll work through. I think there's a lot of neo clouds, so I definitely think some of them are going to say, hey, here's an opportunity for us to stand up more compute and have more offerings for our customers. And of course, there are AMD centric neo clouds too. They can finally say, like, hey, we've been talking about this. Yeah.
Of course. So, of course, we've seen the newest GPUs, right? And even the Helios on paper, they have better, more HBM, and then they're also offering better performance compared to NVIDIA ones on paper. But reading between the lines and in terms of practical deployments, why do you think NVIDIA still offers better performance on a real life scenario? Is it just got to do with CUDA, or why is AMD not able to get there despite having better specs on paper?
Yeah, and we'll see how things shake out once AMD is actually deployed. But I think one of the advantages that NVIDIA has is they just have all the customers. And so they just have so much usage and so many like learning signals, that not only are they deployed, but customers are running different workloads, different variations, different ways. They're able to work out the bugs. They're able to optimize. And then, of course, being such a large company, they have a lot of money to invest into R&D. I think it's like the first mover advantage, and then that compounds just because they can learn more sooner. Now, hopefully 2027 is that for AMD. More customers, gigawatt deployments can learn. And again, maybe agentic AI is a good equalizer here to just help them. Like Anush says, speed is the moat.
Of course, right.
They're behind, but once they start getting learning signals, can move quickly.
Of course. And the Venice CPU, right? That's pleasantly surprised everyone with this, application-specific sort of architecture. You got one for server, sandboxing, and then you've got for general purpose ones. Now, you also put up a post on X saying that why that's something that you see as AMD's moat. So if you could just explain to our viewers what's so special in the architecture of the CPUs today.
Yeah, sure, totally. So, I think like backing up a little bit, it was all about GPUs. And then everyone realized like, oh, wait, like Intel's selling a lot of CPUs, AMD's selling a lot of CPUs. What's this about? And early on, it was just about the head node, the CPU that's really feeding the GPU. Now in this agentic era, we see a lot of, when you're doing Claude Code or Codex, a lot of what's happening when you're like writing code, for example, is it's being compiled, it's running, maybe you're fetching requests from the web. A lot of that runs on CPUs. But the narrative and the conversation hasn't been nuanced enough to say like, hey, that those agentic workloads, those specific things running in a virtual machine, doing tool calls, fetching information, hitting a database, that's very different than what the head node is doing when it's trying to feed a GPU, which is very different than your traditional cloud CPUs that are just serving your existing CRM or ERP or whatever, or APIs. And so then, as other vendors have come out and said like, hey, we've got an agentic CPU, it's often been the SKU that they already had maybe for the head node. And they're just taking it, lifting it, and shifting it. And so what I liked about what AMD talked about today was they're saying, no, wait a minute. There's a head node workload, and it has specific requirements. When you want to optimize for feeding the GPU quickly, you might want lots of memory bandwidth. You might want just a lot of networking communication, like big fat pipes. You can just send all that memory, fetch it, and send it as fast as you can. Those are different constraints than maybe an agentic CPU where you might just want as many cores as possible for a particular power footprint. So it's like, oh, hey, we've just got enough power to throw in 2 or 3 racks in here. How can we get as many cores as possible so we can run as many agents as possible at the lowest power possible so we can squeeze in as many racks? And then, of course, that's different than your traditional air-cooled CPUs running.
Right, of course, that's...
and so, of course, I think where AMD has an advantage here is that they came out and they said, hey, these are different workloads. They have different requirements. We use chiplets, so we have CPU IP, but we can make different configurations. We can have some that focus on just having, 256 cores or 512 cores as great of performance per watt as possible to run as many agents as possible. And differently, we might have a host node CPU that's like run it at the highest clock speed you can, fewer cores, but just try to keep that GPU fed. And so this is right in AMD's sort of bread and butter
butter,
wheelhouse. And they've been doing this for a long time, which is we've got the IP. We can make a portfolio of chips so that they do fit the workload.
Right. And my last question, we saw Cerebras, Andrew Feldman, momentarily on the stage. They did announce a partnership. We didn't get a lot of details. Austin, do you think that was primarily a result of, Grok and NVIDIA coming together, and AMD, had to respond with something, because we didn't hear a lot, but how do you see that partnership move ahead?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if I put myself in AMD's shoes, when NVIDIA made the addition of Grok, they were able to extend the Pareto frontier. You got throughput and you got interactivity, and GPUs could only get to a certain, maybe 300, 400 tokens per second. Of course, with the addition of Grok, they can get way out to like thousands of tokens per second. And that really matters with agents now.
Right.
How can agents just go as fast as possible, generate as much code as possible? Without an SRAM offering like that, AMD's Pareto curve is going to stop. And so you could put these two up, and then people could point out like, hey, what's AMD doing here? They don't have anything that can do 1,000 tokens per second. So strategically, it makes sense for AMD to say we should partner with someone so we can extend that Pareto frontier. What we don't know is how many customers, are really pursuing that. And there's nothing that says you couldn't have done this with AMD 6 months ago.
Right.
You could buy Cerebras and probably pair it up
exactly.
with AMD,
But
but I think strategically it makes sense to find a partner and to be able to say,
of course,
if our customers want it, we can do it.
Right. So thank you so much, Austin, for your wonderful insights, and thank you so much for watching. Follow Austin on Semidope, Chipstrat, and of course, Creative Strategies. Yep, on Twitter, of course. Wonderful talking to you, Austin.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for it. Thank you so much.
Today, we are at the 6th edition of Mysuru Big Tech Show. The theme this year revolves majorly around beyond Bengaluru and trying to understand how the different tech companies, GCCs and startups are expanding across the state and moving beyond Bengaluru. Alright then, let's go inside and see what we have in store today.
So this is the 6th edition of the Big Tech Show in Mysuru. I think the last 5 years, what we have seen is a tremendous development which has happened in the digital economy of the Mysuru as a cluster. Today, when we see the Mysuru cluster, we see that $1.3 billion of digital economy is coming up from the Mysuru cluster. It's an estimated number. In various forms, we have estimated that. 650 plus of startups, which has grown from just 200 number in few years back. We have also seen investments coming up from the ESDM segment. Today, almost 4,700 crores plus of ESDM is growing. We have more than 5,700 crores of IT exports which are there. These numbers show the progress of what the Mysuru cluster is. And then if I come to the 6th edition of the Big Tech Show in Mysuru, what we find is that today, people who was here, there were like around 100 plus startups which are demonstrating the various products. And these are not just small ideas. These are very mature ideas to the technology level of 6 and 7 above, which are investable startups. They are demonstrating their capabilities and innovation here. We have more than 15 plus VCs from across the country who has come over here in Mysuru and listened to the startup pitches. We have almost 25 plus of ESDM leaders from the various industries from across who has come over here to understand. We have global capability centers leaders who has traveled from Bangalore in a separate bus to look at what his cluster is offering. They visited the Global Technology Center, which Government of Karnataka is putting it up and going live next month. And they also visited some of the institutions to see the talent supply for that. Very, very happy and very happy about to see that the 1,200 plus registrations for the Big Tech Show here today, overloaded with the people, looking at collaborations, looking at business to business conversations, looking at startups to VCs, etc. And government, from the government side, you have the secretary for the IDBD department, you have a principal secretary for the industry department coming and talking about what more is coming up in the field of land passes, in the field of benefits, in the field of policy benefits, in the field of programs for the talent like Nipuna, in the field of startups which is there for Beyond Bengaluru, Elevate Next, and etc. All these are coming up in the culmination. We see a great flow of the energy which is coming out from the big tech show, and this will lead to the much more growth journey for the digital economy of the cluster. Thank you for being here.
I have a few questions from my end. So I think as you talk about GCCs going beyond Bengaluru and kind of understanding how they spread across, are there any specific, like apart from Nipuna and Leap that were already mentioned, specific policies that are being implemented for GCCs to push themselves and intensivize and to push the senior leadership to go beyond Bengaluru?
Yeah, so there is a GCC policy which has been published. It is very clearly laid down the benefits for the GCCs to come to Beyond Bengaluru. And that's why we are looking at, we got, two companies which have set up operations in the Global Technology Center is a part of that journey, right? So we have this policy. And these startups also are looking at some of the special benefits which is available from the policy perspective. Our electronics semiconductor manufacturing policy is also on a similar lines to give benefits to the ESDM segment in Beyond Bengaluru. So I think overall, there is a very heavy focus about incentives to the industry if they look at Beyond Bengaluru, especially like Mysuru and other regions. And we find this is a very fruitful way of promoting the policy and the industry coming together.
How many more companies in terms of GCCs can we expect to come in the GTC?
Well, if my wish list is good, I will expect that maybe, as many as possible. But on the realistic terms, I think we can expect at least 5 GCCs this year coming to Mysore. I'm expecting that to happen.
That's this financial year?
This financial year.
Okay.
Yeah, by March next. We should targeting more, but let's see where we land up.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and just last thing I want to touch upon was to understand the entire, participation of global, other countries and sort of understanding how they contribute to Mysuru, and also understanding how the French ecosystem is, contributing here. I want to understand how do you see that happening, and how do you see that partnership going forward, and what exact places is the French ecosystem contributing to Mysuru?
So I think one is that first of all we should look at our announcement that happened saying that Mysuru should be the second hub of IT and AI city. So we are working on now getting more ideas from the industry that how do we do this exercise. Secretary just talked about how do we planning to approach towards bringing more of industries and ideas to say this is what we can do, and government becomes a very positive enabler and catalyst on that. The second piece is the French Consul General was here and he was talking about Indo-French collaboration on AI. Now imagine if we are saying AI city, Indo-French on AI, and then he was also talking about that the senior bureaucratic leadership, political leadership is coming to Bangalore Tech Summit, and he wants to bring that leadership to Mysore. These are a positive signs, right? And these positive signs help us to grow. It's like not an on and off switch where you can just put it on, light is on, but it's a journey when we do, and these all initiatives bring that flavor of it. I'm expecting that maybe one GCC from France will come out here and say, on AI, I would like to work from Mysore. And that could be a very outcome for us while the delegation comes in.
Are we targeting like any other countries? Each country has its own strength in different ecosystems. You look at semiconductors, GCCs, etc. Are we targeting, different economies and asking them to come collaborate with us? Or at the moment, we are seeing who approaches us and find value in what they're approaching us with?
No, I think the time has gone when somebody will come to you. The time has come when now we have to go to the respective geographies. So we have, Taiwan is definitely for manufacturing is the big geography for us. We are a pipeline of companies that we are working with. We have South Korea, we have Japan, and we have, Malaysia as well, right? So we have all these geographies have a very significant impact towards the positive side of investments in the state overall and also in the Beyond Bengaluru. So we are targeting these geographies. Hopefully, if all goes well, we will be having a small delegation going to the roadshow type of stuff in Japan and Korea as well. US will remain a very important geography for us from GCCs and as well as from the semiconductor and technology perspective. Our Honorable Minister will be looking forward to see when, as soon as possible, we can figure out the dates when he would like to take a delegation to the United States of America and maybe some of the European countries as well. So I think we are spread. We will go there, we will convince the industry, and we will drive back investments pipeline to the state.
I think when you're talking about the policies related to LEAP, etc., that you're pushing for beyond Bengaluru, those policies have been for some time. So I just want to understand going forward, what are the new exclusive initiatives you're bringing out for beyond Bengaluru? Something new, because these policies have been there for some time.
No, though policies existed, we have been tweaking them and fine-tuning them for the requirements of the local clusters which we are trying to push, including Mysore is one of the clusters. Like I also mentioned, few initiatives under the policies. For example, the LEAP initiative, that is a local economy accelerator program, is something which we are catering to exclusively for the 6 clusters which we are planning, of which Mysore is a prominent one. Here we try to focus our energies and resources, etc., for skilling local talent, even identifying student ideas which can grow into startups, further granting these startups, providing money for the startups, eventually nurturing them through incubators and accelerators locally, and finally also looking at investment in these startups so that we can help the startups across board, across their life cycle. Apart from the
Already getting from, like, for example, the LEAP program.
LEAP is just initiated last year, which about 1,000 crore investment over 5 years. We are looking at generating about 5 lakh jobs also. So after the end of midway, we will assess it. Yeah.
Ma'am, for GCCs, how are you making sure expansion, like what are you making sure to promote for expansion?
So first is the infrastructure which we'll need here. So the grade A infrastructure is what we need here. And slowly we can see a lot of real estate is being developed. As an anchor, we are trying to promote our GTC, which I just mentioned in the Karnataka State Open University premises, which has been renovated to A grade level. Likewise, we are also introducing the talent which is available here. And we also have an initiative called Nipuna, where we can bridge the talent. If the talent is not readily employable, they can make use of Nipuna, whereby we fund about 40% of the skilling cost, and they can in turn hire them. They can first hire them, upgrade them through our Nipuna, where 40% is bridged, and then they can in turn absorb them into their regular employment. And other than that, we also are introducing to the various other research organizations which are available here, where we can collaborate with local industries also. These kind of things we are introducing. Thank you. Thank you.
So, sir, I think firstly to start with, that we're here at Mysore Tech Summit and sort of understanding how the ecosystem is growing. I'd like to understand from your perspective, when we look at certain sectors that we're discussing today, startups, AI, GCCs, etc., electronics as well. What do you think, should be the unique selling point of Mysore?
I think the unique selling point of Mysore should be that it's a fantastic place to live and work. Mm-hmm. It's got a high quality of life. It's got all the ingredients to be a great tech place, at a time and place when everything depends on human capital, infrastructure, and quality of life. People want to stay in a place where the traffic is less, there's good schooling, good quality of life, and do good work. If you look at the United States in Silicon Valley, places like Palo Alto and Cupertino are suburbs, and they're doing very well. Most of the large techies go there. Yeah. And they require a big center like San Francisco to be close by for the infrastructure. So I think Mysore is ideally situated, and Mysore should look for itself. What it lacks is a good set of local leaders who can promote Mysore, who can market Mysore, and make sure Mysore gets its due. And today in the Big Tech Summit in Mysore, which is the 6th version, we had a lot of local leaders come together, and they're working on a vision. And I think it's very exciting to be here.
Also, I think when we talk about all these different sectors and, say that, okay, like one IBM has already set up, we have one GC that's actively working out of here, and we're expecting definitely more to come this year. In the next 3 years, in terms of growth, when we look at numbers, what is realistically possible?
Well, they can triple what they have here in the next 3 years. And they must start a program to get back people who are left Mysore and working all around the world. A lot of Mysoreans have got educated, have gone to other countries, they've gone to Bangalore, they've gone all over India, and many of them want to come back. So we got to create conditions where they get good jobs, and the local companies can absorb them, or they can come and bring the companies along and grow in this place. So the brand Mysore has to be enhanced, brand Mysore has to be grown, and I'm very excited that the local leadership has come together to do it. So we require a positive climate and support from the government too, in terms of some infrastructure. Very soon that peripheral road linking Tumkur Road to the Bangalore airport will be done. That means from Mysore to the Bangalore airport, you can go in 2.5 hours and you can fly from there. That'll be wonderful.
I think travel is one very important point.
Yes, global travel. Global travel, local travel is important. For the Mysore airport to come, a lot more things have to be done. But in the short term, this road will make a very, very big difference. And it's happening, finally happening.
Also, when we talk about the entire Beyond Bengaluru initiative and look at all these clusters that are beyond, and considering Mysuru is being pitched as the first, second alternative to Bangalore in that sense, at what point do we call Mysuru actually mature in
Well, you call Mysuru mature when you got at least 500,000 people. And you should do it. Why not? You got 30,000 people. It should go to 500,000 people. It may take you 7, 8, 10 years, but start growing. And I'm sure many people will be happy to come here. There's good schooling for children, good social infrastructure, good quality of life, fresh air, very important now. You live in Delhi, you'll die 7 years faster. And all these cockroaches and others in Delhi are creating trouble there. So you want to stay in a place which is quiet, which is, healthy for you, and it's got a good quality of life. And for Mysuru, there's so many places you can go around. And Mysuru is undiscovered. That's the tragedy. Mysuru is a great city, and now, very close to Bangalore. Because the closeness to a place is not determined by the distance, as much as time to reach there. And we need a fast train. We must ask government to create a bullet train between Mysuru and Bangalore, where you can go from Bangalore to Mysuru in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Imagine if you get a train which can come, leave Bangalore every 1 hour and come here in 30 minutes. It will transform. This will be like a suburb. It's better than going from airport to Jayanagar, right? It takes more time. I think we should do that. So we must think big as a state. We must think big as a city. We must think big as a place. And the most important thing for southern Karnataka is connectivity.
Right.
So once you reduce the distance by increasing the speed of commute, and I think, everything will change.
Also, when we look at all these other cities across India, for example, even like Pune, Coimbatore, they have also been actively coming up as, tier 2 alternatives where people are spreading across. Even a lot of GCCs have set up headquarters there, not even just expansion. So how do you sort of...
No, why do GCCs go to a place? Why do IT companies? They want people. They want people, very good, high quality talent who will stay. Attrition should be low. Cost should be okay, but costs are similar, and they should be connected to the metros for transportation. That's what you should do. And Mysuru, everything is there. It's a suburb of Bangalore. The suburb of Bangalore. I think the issue is the leadership in Mysuru has to wake up and push this.
Right.
That's the big issue.
Yeah. I think
Bangalore has formed a good leadership team. They promoted it as the Silicon Beach of India. And they had events. Many people are coming back. They're developing. They got 30,000 people working there in technology. They got about 350 startups. I mean, in 2 years, they've transformed the place. And, Mysuru needs to be transformed. Mysuru is waiting to be transformed.
Yeah. And also, this is the problem that exactly that you're pointing out. A lot of GCCs also say that they're not able to expand because maybe the senior leadership doesn't want to go and stay in a particular city, and that expansion becomes difficult considering Bangalore is always known as the better option in that sense. How do you
No, Bangalore is the better option. Let's be very clear, okay? That's not going to go away. Bangalore has 26 lakh people working in technology, 65,000 IT companies, 56 unicorns, $130 billion of service exports, including $100 billion of software. And Bangalore has got 45 million passengers connected to some 70 cities globally. You can't duplicate that kind of infrastructure. And Bangalore has 200,000 people. And most techies in India want to work in Bangalore. Now, you can't duplicate that. What Mysuru should do is to try to become a suburb of Bangalore, which it is, because the distance has been reduced by the expressway. It's a beautiful road. And now the expressway through the Nandi is connecting with the airport, and that is very good. So 2.5 hours you are here. And a beautiful road. It's not a congested road. So it's just 150 kilometers. And now you set a fast train between Bangalore and Mysore, where the distance, the time taken comes down, then you are transformed Mysore. The land here is cheaper, quality of life is better, schooling is good, colleges are good. You got everything going for you. Right? You got to think big. And that's the way to create hub and spoke. And then every GCC will want to come here. Today I was talking to my former colleagues from Infosys, and many of them telling, I stay here, I work in Bangalore, I got work from home for a certain time, and I travel up and down, and I'm happy. My family is here. That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And lastly, maybe just to touch upon the Mysore city itself, apart from travel infrastructure, within the city, what do you think is one thing that can improve that will attract even more people to come in?
I think first, you need to look at, public transport in Mysore, expand public transport. Okay. You should not have everybody buying vehicles and all. They can all buy because they're well off. That is so. You got to have good public transport, air-conditioned EV buses so people can go around. And second, you must bring in international schools. because people have aspirations to have international schools for the children. That has to be done. And third, you must promote more research centers. So you must promote the top of the pyramid. The top of the pyramid will pull up the middle and the bottom. I think that's very important. We can't be a race to the bottom. We've got to be a race to the top. And then we must promote Mysore as a brand. So more and more people. First, people who left Mysore many years back want to come back because they got their parents here and they want a better life for themselves after working hard elsewhere. And even if 10,000, 20,000 come back, it's fantastic. So the key thing is, how do you promote Mysore? And the models are there in the US, Palo Alto, Cupertino to San Francisco. Right?
Yeah.
Silicon Valley is spread out. So why don't you spread out? Bangalore, the Silicon Valley of India. Everything is there. You spread out. Bangalore can develop. You get a fast train there for 1 hour you can go, 1.5 hours you can go. And Mysore you can do it in half an hour. We need that connectivity. That's the whole thing that's holding back people.
Right.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Pi project created. There is requirement, and this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Pi cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker, and these things come automatically. You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
Now, on the 4th of July, PM Modi stood inside a factory in Sanand and watched India's first batch of commercially produced packet chips roll off the line. CG Semi's OSAT facility, a 7,600 crore rupees joint venture between CG Power, Japan's Renesas Electronics and Thailand's Star Microelectronics, became the third semiconductor facility to enter commercial production in India in 2026. Yes, Micron went live in February, Kane Semicon in March, CG Semi in July. Sanand has become, well, India's semiconductor packaging cluster in the space of just 5 months. Semicon 2.0 was approved very recently at 1.25 lakh crores plus, up from 76,000 crore rupees, taking total approved semiconductor investments in India beyond 1.64 lakh crore rupees. Ashok Chandak has been representing India's semiconductor industry through every stage of this journey, from the very first policy announcement to the moment the chips have actually been shipped. He is president of IESA and SEMI India. And you know what? It's a true honor to have him join me exclusively on Front Page today for what I believe is a cracker of a conversation ahead. Welcome to Front Page, sir. How are you doing? Truly an honor to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting, and appreciate your time for our sector, which is semiconductor and electronics. Thank you.
Sir, it's the hot topic of the town and will remain that way for a very long time. But before I get into any of the wonderful insights that you're going to be sharing with us, I obviously needed to ask you, as I mentioned in the intro as well, Sanand seems to be the epicenter when it comes down to the sector. But I believe you have just finished a meeting with the Chief Minister of Karnataka. How did that go, sir?
It's quite interesting. And we see, in fact, today the CM was very inspiring in his speech. Before the speech, he did listen to the industry, the various sectors in Karnataka, including the electronics and semiconductor. He also went around the hall and greeted and met many of the leaders personally, and very clearly articulated the priorities for the government of Karnataka and his commitment that for the technology sector, which includes electronics, semiconductor, the deep tech, the software related topics, even the ITB, the BT, all those things would be supported very well. And they are quite bullish. They have taken inputs from industry bodies, including us, and going to work on some additional policy initiatives so that Karnataka continues its momentum in the design and innovation which they have.
Oh, yes.
And go towards more the national agenda which is being rolled out and impacting the global ecosystem. So that was an excellent meeting, actually, I would call.
Fabulous. Ashok, sir, I have to obviously ask you this very quickly before I want to start off with one of your quotes, which was quite inspirational. I want to ask you this. As you mentioned, the government heard the industry. Now, you've been part of this journey from the get-go, from the very inception of it. Does it, in a big way, encourage you, make you feel motivated as a rep and the president of the industry board when, you know, the polity of India starts to respond with a lot of warmth and with a lot of, let's say, motivation?
I would say it's a pride moment for India as a country, and I would call every Indian citizen for me as well. Because as an industry body, we ourselves and myself as an individually actually involved into this semiconductor journey of the country, which began, let's say, I would call 3 decades ago.
Sure.
And we established ourselves as the world's largest semiconductor design destination. Almost every global semiconductor company I would call has a design center in India, and they are employing more than 150,000 engineers in a cutting-edge chip design, verification, embedded software, other stuff. So representing such a major intellectual team as an industry body and as a president of the association is definitely a proud moment. Further to that, the progress which we have made in this sector as a semiconductor sector during last few years itself is really amazing. And that gives a deep source of satisfaction and also the inspiration to me and our fellow colleagues as well as every participant of this industry.
Fabulous. I mean, I want to start there. I want to start with the fact that, Sanand seems to have become the epicenter. I mean, there are 3 plants. We are talking about the fact that there is this entire understanding as far as Keynes is concerned, as far as Micron is concerned. Micron was February 2026, Keynes was March of 2026, CG Semi is July now. Now, 6 approved semiconductor projects in Gujarat worth $14.7 billion, Ashok sir. What has changed and how did Sanand become a cluster that quickly?
So, the India's manufacturing journey, I would call, has started only recently. And the Gujarat as a state itself has a very industrial culture. We know that there are several other sectors of the industries are thriving over there.
Correct.
The government is very much pro-industry. The ease of doing business is there. And the first set of projects, those were approved and supported by state of Gujarat, really became a game changer. Typically, for semiconductor industry, the projects move in a way we call as a cluster. That means 1, 2, 3, 4 more plants would come up actually as their supply chain requirements would be met. And the first set of projects, those were approved, those were supported very well by the government, both central and state government, in addition to the efforts done by these industries themselves to get to the commercial production. You already named 3, Micron, Keynes and CG Semi, all 3 are in commercial production.
Yes.
And this I would call is a most important milestone in the history of India's electronics and semiconductor industry. And particularly because till last year, many companies were a bit skeptical.
Yes.
That India made the announcement, projects are approved, but whether they will go live, when, and whether they will find a market, when, all these questions are put to the rest. And with this now, Sanand is emerging as one of the very good cluster for even more projects to come. Now, these 3 projects are obviously, we call as a assembly and test, OSAT, or in Micron case, it is called as a ATMP. So whenever it is in-house, it is called ATMP. If it is outsourced, it is called OSAT. And to me, this is a great strategy from Government of India and also by the Gujarat. Because this is a very good entry point for India. It is less capital intensive than the leading edge fabs.
Correct.
The execution timelines are manageable. Fabs take 4 years, 5 years. This you can turn around in about 1.5 years itself. And that way, we are able to create a proof point that India is indeed moving with the execution. And overall, if we look at now, out of the phase 1 of Semicon India, 76,000 crore, what you mentioned, 12 projects were approved actually. That got about $20 billion plus as an investment commitment. All of these are progressing well. And once 3 projects are on live, I can see that the other projects, companies are also very highly motivated to speed up their development. There is one interesting thing happening worldwide. I want to bring it out here, actually. Is we are in a sweet spot. Worldwide, the semiconductor demand is going out of the roof. We will be very soon reaching $1 trillion worth of the market size. Huge demand led by AI for high performance computing, the GPUs, the data centers. But correspondingly with that, they also need the power supplies, the power management and other stuff. And because of that, the other sectors are also getting a pull through demand. With that, all the OSATs, those are operational in India, they are going to get a ready market. They don't have to struggle. They will be very soon ramping up, meeting their necessary yield curves, the operational efficiencies, scale up the production substantially, and ship it to Indian customers as well as the worldwide customers. So we are at a very sweet spot.
That makes sense what you just mentioned. Ashok sir, which kind of then brings me to this point, which is the fact that, generally speaking, that's why I started with Sanand. Generally speaking, the mindset is that when it comes down to technology, deep tech, etc., 2 states come to mind, which is essentially Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. But this time around, it's been a pivot, it's been very different, and it's done wonderfully well. It's almost like, it's setting a precedent of sorts. But I'd like to follow up with another factor, which I'd like to ask you. states competing with each other, especially in a sector like semiconductors, will, as you just mentioned, will be a great sweet spot for India moving forward? Is that how probably also the industry looks at it?
Yes, surely. I think what we have to look at is, I will give you an example. When normally we are sitting in a school classroom, most of the time, and don't get me wrong, student, we think my competition is near desk, behind the desk, or the front desk.
Correct.
Some other student, that's what we see. Actually, the moment the student pass their 10th, reach the 10th cycle, they see, oh, my competition is not in this room, it's outside. The moment you appear for competitive exam, then you see that, oh, my competition is not at the state level, but at the all India level. We have to look in a similar way. We should not think that states are competing within India. States are getting ready to compete globally.
Fair.
And this is what I would say, that we need to build that mindset, not only in the industry, but also states. Obviously, every state wants this thriving and upcoming long-term sustainable industry in their own state. Nothing wrong. It's okay. And several states have come out with a policy. They are trying to attract the companies. And some companies are spreading out. So we see not only Sanan, we see some projects coming in Odisha.
Yes.
There is a project in Assam. There is a project in UP. And more states would get it. So having projects in multiple states, actually, I would call is a good point, in the sense that once the one or two projects get established, it can create further ecosystem and further clustering of more projects there. Looking at the global demand, which I just mentioned, already reaching $1 trillion and will continue to grow. And there are so many companies worldwide, including India's market itself. We expect India's electronics market to go to $400 billion by 2030. So there's a huge demand in India itself. That means we have a good room for more number of projects. They could be in multiple states. And I wouldn't call that they are competing. Maybe it looks like that, but it is more, they are building themselves, getting ready for a globally competitive semiconductor ecosystem. And that's where it would be. And it's an encouraging sign, I would call, as the multiple states coming together, they are wanting to do this. It's an encouraging sign. Some little bit competition is always good between the states, so that they are also on their toes. For example, I'll give just an example.
Please.
When the Gujarat projects were run on a fast track basis and are on commercial productions, any other state which is asking and looking for getting the projects or implementing, they would also be on the toes that, okay, let's help these guys solve problems, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's a port, whether it's the roadways, the electricity, the power, the land, the labor, whatever, Because a lot of ground level challenges would continue to exist. And those time to time will have to be addressed. So my view, this is a good example where other states would also learn. So in one word, I would say Gujarat is leading the way. Other states would also learn from this and they will contribute. And this is where we as India can build a globally competitive manufacturing ecosystem.
Fabulous. Well put, sir. Very encouraging. Now, of course, talking globally, which naturally then takes me to this thought, and I'm sure you've been asked about this time and again in different ways and means. I'd like to ask you again, but I'll try to put it across as originally as I can. OSAT packages finished silicon dies and tests them, right? TSMC etches transistors onto wafers at 2 nanometers. India is doing the packaging right now. Now, every headline calls this a semiconductor milestone. There are different ways people are interpreting this, etc. So please educate us, sir. Walk us through what India is actually doing and how far are we genuinely from what TSMC does. I want everyone to understand that, because there's a lot of criticism and noise which I think needs to be, shut down at the door.
See, let's understand. There are or let's say there are 3 key aspects into the semiconductor value chain, and there are more. We can drill down multiple branches of that. Number 1 is the design.
Yes.
Number 2 is the wafer fab, on which actually, as you mentioned, on the wafers, the actual design is translated in terms of the transistors and interconnects. And from there, you get a chip, maybe small nail size or bigger size, depending on the complication.
Correct.
And then that gets packaged. We call it as a OSAT or ATMP. And finally, this chip will go and sit on a PCB of an electronic product.
Sure.
So on a design side, India has got a strong pool of engineers. I already mentioned 150,000 engineers, more than 20% of the global population. So on a design side, we are already established ourselves. In fact, we are leading. Second part now is on a wafer fabs. Now, wafer fabs are a long gestation and a high capital intensive projects. Some of the wafer fabs are like $15 billion, $20 billion. Some wafer fabs, lower technology nodes, they could be, the normal technology nodes could be about $5, $10 billion.
Fair.
And let's accept the fact, India does not have that manufacturing technology because we have not done semiconductor manufacturing, nothing wrong in that. So as we do not have those things, we are dependent on the global companies. Either they should come on their own or they should do joint venture or a partnership. Then only things will move. Now, this piece is always very complex to do because of this, the reason of the non-availability of the technology, other things. The time window, it takes about 3 to 5 years to build that. And again, the capex.
Yes.
So it is always good as an entry point to get started to put foot in the door of the semiconductor manufacturing value chain is to start with the assembly and test operations. That's what India has done. And I already mentioned, it was a very good strategy, well calibrated. And with that, today, I would call India has earned the currency of trust because we have proven that in the sense credibility. We announce the project, we complete the project, commercial production, credibility. We are building our capability with these all new policies coming up and the government commitment and a continuity of the policy. That is done. Now, some people ask, but we are doing the wafer fab, which is 28 or 45, 90 nanometer. World is doing 1, 2, 3 nanometer, like that. My view is we are not here for the race of 1, 2, 3. And our journey of the semiconductor is not to be seen as a race. Our journey should be seen as we are establishing ourselves as a trustworthy and a credible partner worldwide.
Fair.
And there is also a huge demand, and I will give you numbers, for the technology nodes, called the traditional technology nodes, or some people call as a lagging nodes, which is like 28 and 45 and 65, 90 nanometers. Huge demand. In volume terms, that is the biggest demand, by the way. In terms of the value terms, yes, it may be 40% and a 60% is 1, 2, 3. But those 1, 2, 3 is also highly specialized manufacturing activity. And there are very few companies, those have got that design capability and their productization. So which includes your GPU companies, CPU companies, the memory chip companies, there are a handful of them.
Right.
And we don't have those. So why to unnecessarily get into race and chase there? Rather than that, focus on something where still there is a demand. We can make best out of it. We can build the businesses and we can supply not only to India, but also to the global market. And this is where I would call that we should not read too much on that why we are not doing a 2 nanometer chip manufacturing. While in terms of the design competence, there are several design engineers of the global companies particularly who are already doing 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer design in India.
True.
So that expertise is there, but it is utilized as a captive design centers of the global companies. So be it. But having said that, with that, there are some engineering manpower in India, those have knowledge and a capability of the chip design to that level. Who knows, tomorrow somebody will spin off, set up their own startup, set up their own company.
Wonderful.
So at least that competence is there.
Yeah. Wonderful. Ashok sir, the way I understand it, it makes sense. It's actually what you're probably trying to ram home is the fact and hammer in home is the fact that it's a good business decision. One, you're building credibility across the globe, which you've established very clearly. Secondly, we are hitting a market which at the end of the day will give us volume instead of value, which is fine as a great start. Plus also, when you talked about the collaboration bit, very recently Seoul Semiconductor is trying to look at either Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or Gujarat as a possible joint venture to set up their own facility for manufacturing. So it seems to be well falling in place because we've established credibility and trust. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, with the announcement of this ISM 2.0, which happened last week.
Correct.
And I was there and I spoke to a couple of media guys as well. You know, what I said is we are moving from credibility to capability with the continuity of the government policy.
Fair.
And with this Semicon 2.0, it already addresses now the entire ecosystem. Because we need to know that semiconductor is not just about fabs. As you know, some people make a hype about it actually. Semiconductors is about the ecosystem.
Sure.
And India's greatest strength and the vision is to build the entire value chain.
Yep.
From design to talent, to manufacturing, to packaging, to electronics manufacturing and innovation. And this is what I would make India a trusted global semiconductor powerhouse.
Fair point. I'd like to, of course, add add value to what you just mentioned, because our IT Minister, Vaishnav ji, said this on the 8th of June in 2026, and I'm sure obviously you're aware of this. Korea, and I quote, Korea, Taiwan, these countries built that ecosystem over 4 to 5 decades. We started a few years ago. The comparison would not be very accurate. And the critics say India is too late and too far behind. So it's clearly, you've made the case, sir, that the right metric for India's semiconductor journey actually is, according to you, to build an ecosystem.
Indeed, ecosystem and capability, and that's fine. Correct. As Minister said, other countries have taken 4 or 5 decades to build this, and how can somebody expect us to build the same in 2-3 years time frame when even single fab cannot be done in 3 years time frame?
I agree.
Yeah.
But at least we are on the right path, and it's encouraging, which brings me to Semicon 2.0 then. Up from, and these are very encouraging figures, up from 76,000 crore rupees. Now the total approved investments exceed 1.6 lakh crore rupees. Now again, I would like to quote the minister, the IT minister. India is on course to be among the top 4 semiconductor manufacturing nations by 2035. Now, according to you, Ashok sir, what does ISM 2.0 unlock that ISM 1.0 could not?
So my view is we should look at the financial incentive in a different perspective.
Okay.
The financial incentive very essential to kickstart the industry because India never had a manufacturing industry. So in a phase 1, were to kickstart, and that's where the government also given a large chunk of incentive, almost 50% from central government and additional from the state government, so that thing gets started and we de-risk some of the early entrant because the ecosystem is not there, the infrastructure is not there, the local technology is not there. They have to import or joint venture partnership. That is taken care. However, now with establishing during phase 1, creating success out of phase 1, now the lookout is for next phase, which should be building a self-sustaining ecosystem with a deep domestic capability. And that is the intent of this Semicon 2.0, where it is giving the benefits, incentives, de-risking at multiple stages of the verticals and a value chain, which includes not only design related things, because we are design engineers, but we have to make the design of the product out of that. That is the entire chip design and branded in India. That needs a different ball game and different funding. So it looks into design, it looks into the fabs, obviously, and OSAT as the previous case.
Sure.
But it also adds 3 more elements.
Okay.
They call it a strategic pillar. One is about talent. So we definitely need chip designer, it is there, but also we need the manufacturing engineers, the process specialist, the equipment engineers, the technicians. And this is where, industry and academia have to work together to create a future-ready workforce. And ISM 2.0 gives some benefit to that. Second part, the packaging has to move to the advanced packaging. Because in a semiconductor field as well, the more and more complexity chips are getting designed, and then we need to get the advanced packaging because you have demand for AI, the chiplets, all as a heterogeneous integration. So that becomes a key differentiator. And if India has to become a global hub for semiconductors, we must have advanced packaging. So that's a part of the support package into the Semicon 2.0. And third, most important, is to create and develop the local or a domestic ecosystem for equipments, which is machines, materials, specialty.
Manufacturing it locally is what you're talking about, sir?
Yeah, it has to be done locally because all these things you cannot continue to import actually.
Right.
there are more than, people would get surprised, there are more than 200 types of specialty chemicals and gases materials are required.
Wow.
You don't have locally, you have to keep importing.
Right.
Import, warehousing, storage becomes a challenge. So in this policy now, this is also being encouraged. And these industries can really ramp up very quickly in India, because we all know India has got a robust chemical industry, the material industry and a gases industry. But they do not make those products at the purity grade requirement of semiconductor industry. What we need is 99.9999% accuracy or purity, which is 6 nines or 7 nines. And that is what now this chemical industry would ramp up, and they would bring them themselves up actually. So that's next pillar. Then R&D and product innovation. So far we have been focusing on the academic R&D, which goes on. What is required is the industry-led R&D. Because we have to create now 3 years, look 3 years, 5 years ahead. What is that we require at that time in terms of the IP, in terms of the products, in terms of the manufacturing technology, and that is focus into this one. So overall, once we start putting all these things together, the entire ecosystem get addressed. And my view is the next phase is the ecosystem development, not just the incentive. So 1.27 lakh crore is much higher amount than 76,000 crore of previous scheme. But as I said, this $13.3 billion is one notional amount which could attract, in fact, $40 to $50 billion worth of investments in the. And for that, we have to create the ecosystem. Talent is going to be differentiator, which will get addressed. Global requirement is going towards the advanced packaging, that gets addressed. We cannot continue to import everything. So the equipment, materials, chemicals, gases would also get supported locally. So that's the ecosystem creation. R&D focus. So that way, in summary, I would call the first phase was about building the credibility, attracting the investment. While the second phase now, which is Semicon 2.0, is about creating capability, commitment, and continuity of the policy. And I would say that if you look at the various countries, they become semiconductor leader not just by building one fab, by building the ecosystem. And this is where India is leading to.
Which is wonderful. It's a holistic approach, sir, as the way you've kind of, broken it down for us and made it easy for us to absorb it. Because also, one thing came to my mind, that apart from just the hardcore semiconductor sector, it is also in so many ways benefiting the auxiliary suppliers and like the chemical industry, as you mentioned, or for that matter, the opportunities that it will bring to so many other industries with this entire thrust, and the fact that the credibility is built, which I guess you've hit the nail on the head, that it will attract a lot more people to come in and invest in India, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
Which I want to ask you this, sir. You know what? The human mind works in a very comparative sort of a way. It talks about the same thing. I mean, this came to my mind, that Intel and Fairchild, I'll take you back, were trying to set up here for the longest time, right from the 1960s to the early 2000s, etc. Now, we all know there were policy issues probably, or bureaucracy aspects, whatever it might be, but we lost out on time. The way you've kind of explained this entire momentum that has gained, trust today, how do you feel in terms of times to come that we have forgotten all of those? Have we learned our lessons from those aspects, and now we are all set to move relentlessly ahead?
Sorry, surely. I think you see the biggest difference now is the time has changed. In past, the industry was pulled by one or two sectors alone. Now things are changing. Here we are talking the overall, if you look at the global economy, it is AI, it is electronics, semiconductors, the global capability centers, the precision engineering, the quantum, all those things are working hand in hand and creating an unprecedented opportunity worldwide and also for India. Look at what is happening in India. There is a strongest commitment from the government side, as high as from the Honorable Prime Minister.
Correct.
You got 3 projects, those went on commercial production. all three projects, Honorable Prime Minister found time to go there on site, spend a couple of hours on the plant to see what's going on and also roll out those projects. So that's the strongest commitment. Not only groundbreaking ceremonies, but also the commercial production.
Yep.
And many of the speeches, if you look at from the Prime Minister and the Union Minister, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnaw, it's very clear that there's a strong focus for this sector. Because as Mr. Vaishnaw said many times, it is a foundational technology. It is going to be as important as today we see UPI for our payments.
Oh, yeah.
We go into the market anywhere, whether it's the vegetable shop or a small kirana shop or anybody, you just pay by UPI. They don't want to even take cash now, actually. Things have changed on a payment. Similar thing, the semiconductors are foundation and they change the way we live our life and everything. Without mobile phone or a laptop or a vehicle or a car or light control, nothing works.
True.
And as a country, which is also need to protect itself, the security and the sovereignty of the country also is dependent on the semiconductors.
Yeah.
So that way, the semiconductor has become very important. Government shows the full focus and commitment, including the Honorable Prime Ministers. And that is where I would say that we are really working very well and building not only our industry. And I want to add one example here.
Please.
As I'm in the industry for almost 3 decades, and I was also chairman of IESA about 10 years ago. In past, we always found it difficult to convince the Indian corporates to invest in the electronic semiconductor sector. They were busy in telecom, infrastructure, or the, let's say, steel and mines, whatever you call, traditional industries. And then they came into softwares and all those. Now things have changed. You see the big bet put by Tata on
I was going to come to that.
Doing electronics manufacturing, doing the chip packaging, and doing the wafer fab.
Yeah.
You see bet put by HCL Group along with Foxconn. You see Keynes, the Indian company.
Yeah.
You mentioned CG Semi, which is part of the Murugappa Group. I mean, they had never done the technology topics, semiconductors before. Now they invest. So what I'm saying is, and now I know many companies are looking into, Indian corporates are giving a serious view and a sincere view to get into this marketplace. And that is the biggest change is going to help us going forward. Because perpetually we cannot be dependent on only global players to come to India and set up. Someday we need Indian corporates to rise beyond the necessary, their traditional frameworks and build these businesses.
Wonderfully put, sir. Wonderfully put. Because also, 2 things came to my mind while you were, of course, going ahead and elaborating on this. One, of course, is the geopolitical unrest. That could be a huge motivator as far as, accelerating the entire semiconductor mission program is concerned. And the second is the arm twisting. A country can constantly just keep you at ransom. And I think getting out of that, that so-called under the thumb of that entire situation, I think is crucial. That's what you're probably also talking about.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. Tata Electronics, as you just mentioned, sir, I want to talk about the Dholera with the ASML, actually etching transistors onto the silicon wafers, not just packaging them, which is wonderful. So what has to happen between now and Dholera going live for India to claim it as genuinely manufacturing semiconductors end to end? Could you very quickly shed light on that, sir?
Yeah. So what's going to happen is as I mentioned, the design aspects are already ongoing. There are several startups also. Now they have started to do their chip design. The design link incentive, more than 15 startups have already produced their first prototypes. They could get, some of them already got sample manufacturing done at Semiconductor Lab, Mohali, Chandigarh. But depending on the technology node, they have to go outside of India. Maybe companies like Global Foundries or TSMC or others to get the wafer done. But they would get soon assembled in India because OSATs are operational.
Right.
Coming to Tata, now they have a huge empire of not only the software activities which we know, but also the embedded electronics, the chip designs and other stuff. And with Tata's 2 major plants coming up live, one is the OSAT operations in Assam. And second is their fab, which is coming up in Dholera. So that way, it will complete. The moment the fab is complete, it completes our complete end-to-end ecosystem. That means design is being done, conceptual design is done. Then after that, the wafer fab is done by Tata, for example. The assembly test operation will be done by one of the fab, either Tata own or other fab. And then it sits onto the electronics design or a PCB board, again, which is designed in India, manufactured in India, and end product in the hands of the consumers of the India. So we are really waiting to see, as soon as this fab goes live, we would have a satisfaction that India has arrived at the stage where end-to-end things are done out of India.
Fabulous.
Now, chip may not get done because, we have so many types of chips, so many types of products. But even if part of the pie is done out of India, either one stage or two stage or complete end-to-end, that brings India to a very different level.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And the way the globe sees you then is with a lot of respect. Yeah, I agree with you there. Japan, sir, honestly, what is Japan's entire understanding? It's a wonderful partnership and a collaboration that they have. And Japan is front and center in every conversation that we tend to have as far as semiconductors is concerned. So very quickly, I want to ask you, what is Japan getting here that probably they're not being able to find anywhere else in the world? What are we offering?
See, Japan, if you look at the one of the country which has got a strong forte in the semiconductors is Japan. It's not poorly visible, and I will explain how. See, traditionally, if you look back a couple of decades ago, Japan had a very thriving semiconductor brands and manufacturing, about 40%, 30% market.
Right.
Over a period of time, the American companies took over much faster and much ahead. Plus, some of the European companies such as NXP, part of the Philips group, ST Micro, and also the Infineon, they took over. And Japan Industries, they started to lose out. It went through some M&A, and today maybe Japan semiconductor manufacturing is about 10% of the global demand, including the memory things. They started to lose out, which were very strong. However, there's one thing which Japan has managed to retain, and that is we call as the overall supply chain.
Fair.
Equipment, materials, all those. Today, Japan has almost 40 to 45% of the share of that market. The total market is $210 billion worldwide. And imagine almost half, less than half, is managed by by the Japanese companies. There are a lot of large brands there. So even simple activities like the wafer cutting, wafer dicing, wafer polishing, wire bonding, placement, the robotics, the specialty chemicals, the specialty materials, there are many Japanese companies, hundreds of them.
Sure.
They are doing the job. I was in Japan, let's say last December, when there was an event, our event called Semicon Japan. And I found that the Japanese companies had got a strong interest to come to India. Two reasons. Number one, there is a country-to-country dialogue and country-to-country trust level between Japan and India. Indian Prime Minister went to Japan last year. The Japanese Prime Minister recently last month was in India, as we all know. Along with them, the delegations goes. So there is a government-to-government dialogue, very trustworthy.
Sure.
Country-to-country dialogue, trustworthy. And then industry-to-industry and association involvement. So that is all levels of the engagements are now thriving to build that cooperation model where some of the Japanese companies would find the market in India surely as a business opportunity because they are anyway supplying worldwide. They could come to India. For them, this is also a good supply chain resilience or diversification because they cannot keep doing everything in Japan only.
Sure.
While some of the nearby countries for them are ruled out, we know that. They are not going to those nearby countries. So where did it go? India offers multiple things. There is a talent. Then there is a domestic market. And there is also a thriving and upcoming industry. This is where the Japanese companies find is a lot of interest to work together with Indian counterpart. All our events, we see Japanese companies participating. Even for example, we have upcoming Semicon India event in September. Many Japanese companies are setting up their booths and stalls.
Wonderful.
And many Japanese leaders, CEOs, CXOs are coming to India for business meetings with the ministry as well as with the industries of India. So Japan is I would call one of the natural ally for India, and India is one of the natural ally for Japan, and that is how it's being respected. And with that, credibility and trust at a highest possible level, automatically industries also, they try to trust each. And this is where I see India-Japan collaboration is really moving fast, is moving very much ahead. And for us, our semiconductor journey, we need Japan as a strong partner here.
Sure.
Without Japan partnership, without their support, it's going to become tough.
Also, Ashok sir, very quickly, I want to ask you as a very quick follow-up. Do you feel that at the end of the day, this kind of a partnership with Japan also, as you already mentioned, gives a huge amount of credibility to us as India globally, but does that also put us in a position along with Japan and the two of us moving together and beating the world at it? Do you also feel that that could be a part of, the unsung strategy?
My view is actually, we have to look at semiconductor industry a bit differently.
Okay.
And the complexity of the overall end-to-end ecosystem makes it necessary to have multiple countries get involved. Today,
fair point. Okay.
No chip is made full end-to-end into a single country. Maybe one of them, few of them doesn't matter. But overall, no country is 100% self-sufficient on everything. And it will not happen also. Considering the complexity at each stage. So what is required now is more of interdependence and working together. And this is where I see with India and Japan coming together, India building the design part of it, let's say, as a strong strength, Japan supply chain elements, and then the rising electronics demand and a thriving semiconductor manufacturing system in India builds up the business opportunities. And this is how it will progress worldwide. I don't think India and Japan need to come together and arm twist or do some kind of a thing to any other country.
Fair point.
That is not the intent. But together, it becomes a very strong critical force, which will make the interdependence live much longer worldwide. And that way, then every country would have to respect each other rather than creating some kind of a, you don't do this, you cannot buy this, you cannot ship there, you cannot, all those things have to go away actually. And that is how I see this Japan-India partnership to build a strong, credible force, which will create interdependency within the semiconductor overall supply chain. And once it is interdependent to each other, people would cooperate. Because finally, if you don't, then you are also a loser there. It becomes a lose-lose situation.
Fabulously put. As far as the strategy goes, it's wonderful. It's like almost like, you're cracking a balance for the world order and putting things into harmony. That's the way I could understand it. 20% of the world's semiconductor design engineers, sir, we've been talking about this, and this is a true talent and a true force that we have, a great positive. Now, the DLI scheme supporting 24 startups, government is targeting at least 50 fabless companies. Can India's fabless companies become globally competitive, Ashok sir? And what does that require beyond the incentive schemes?
See, my view is the startups and fabless companies will be innovation engine of our semiconductor ecosystem, because they would create intellectual property, they would develop the indigenous products and move India up on a value chain. Let's understand, in the electronics and semiconductor, the biggest value, economic value, is in the intellectual property and the design and a brand. Just pure play manufacturing or assembly is a low margin business. So if we are to create the economic value and retain in the country, this is the most important step.
Okay.
Now, India has already established as a design hub because of the design pool of engineer, maybe captive design center. The next phase now is how do we convert this design capability and a knowledge into globally competitive Indian chip companies. And that's the job being done by this DLI. As a fabless startup, they will play important role. IP creation, product creation. And for them, India is the best, I would call best ground, fertile ground, because there are so many use cases in India, so many problem statements in India that these fabless and startup companies, if try to solve those problems and do the chip designs for that. For example, we are doing a chip design now for a CCTV. Almost 40-50 million units are required per year.
Oh yeah.
We do for a smart meter. Almost 10 million plus smart meters are deployed every year. We do for similar other applications. So that way, there are several such opportunities, not only high volume, but even a small volume actually. Any towns or villages and cities, some other use case will come. There's a defense sector, there's a strategic sector, low volume, but high value. So with this scheme of DLI, where these companies get access to the most expensive cutting edge of EDA tools, is very useful. And that helps them to really get started. Otherwise, if they have to take a license on their own, it's prohibitively expensive for them. What we see also is now the venture capital and the investors are paying much larger attention to our sector. For any startup, one of the biggest bottleneck is always the capital, money. And this is being made available not only through government programs, through DLI, for example, and many states, even Karnataka, for example, many states are having this kind of a startup support funds. And IESA also runs the initiative called Startup Mitra, where we connect the startup guys, do them mentoring, connect them to the industry, give them some idea on the partnerships, which product to develop, connect them with the investor community.
Nice.
And it is progressing. So my view is fabs manufacture chips, yes. OSAT assembles them, but startups create the innovation. And the future of our semiconductor leadership will be built and the economic value will be retained in the country once this fabless ecosystem is successful. And this is where the central government and many state governments are really putting efforts. And we as an industry body are also putting all the possible support to the startup guys.
Fabulous. Ashok sir, in conclusion, I have to ask you this. Quantum. Everyone is talking about the fact that India in a big way is trying to embrace and capitalize on the fact that we don't miss this bus. We've had opportunities in the past which we've missed, but quantum is something which requires a lot of quantum chips, specialized semiconductor devices at the intersection of both the ecosystems. So, in conclusion, I want to ask you this. Does India's emerging semiconductor manufacturing capability give it a meaningful foothold in quantum hardware, or is quantum an entirely separate strategy? And finally, also, what does success look like for India in the next 5 years?
See, quantum, a topic, if we look at now, it is fairly new. And even worldwide, nobody has taken a pole position so far.
True.
Several countries are spending money, efforts, resources, and so does India. So India already have a quantum mission.
6,003 crores, sir, somewhere there.
Yeah. So maybe amount looks right now small, but at least I look at this as a glass, maybe half full, 1/4 full, or maybe 10% full. Something water is there. I'm not thirsty. I'm not going to die because there is no water. So even that small amount is there, but what that creates is the motivation factor. It's the inspiration factor for not only the corporates, but also student community and researchers that yes, quantum is an important thing. Some funding is available. So labs are available. And I would say that that's the right way to get started. See, today in a quantum, it's still few years away in terms of the mass manufacturing and mass deployment.
Yes.
And for the quantum would be requiring from what we do in the semiconductor industry. Similar kind of precision engineering, similar kind of equipments. Some of the semiconductors would also be required over there to make those quantum machines and manufacturing and other stuff. So what we do in the semiconductor industry would be partially useful over there, and our experience to build a new industry itself would also be useful there in terms of the lesson learned. So we should keep patience, and it's the right time to get started with the quantum activities. The researchers are already doing this. Many institutes have started to work on these quantum related activities. Now coming to how the success looks like
in 5 years.
Our view is as a part of the semiconductor program and electronics, I want to combine with that now.
Please.
And many times people don't count, but let me put some numbers together. Recently, we announced this last week, 1.27 lakh crore Semicon 2.0. On the same day, there was a mobile phone manufacturing scheme, 62,500 crore. And just few months ago, the scheme called ECMS, Electronic Component Manufacturing Scheme, which was extended to 40,000 crore during the budget. Add all these things, it is 1.9 lakh crores. close to like 200,000 crores. It's a substantial chunk of money.
Yep.
For the first time in India, I see that the various policy initiatives are working together. All they try to address is a holistic view and a need of the country and the world. So they stitch into a very beautiful fabric, which is creating an end-to-end ecosystem of semiconductor and electronics, and going to address not only India's bargaining domestic markets, but also create export opportunities. I mentioned $400 billion electronic industry.
Yep.
$100 billion will go as an export, remaining domestic consumption.
Fabulous.
Same thing, semiconductors. So in terms of the success, we should have the high value addition into the electronic sector. Today, it is less than 20%. 5 years from now, can we reach 35-40%? If it is more value addition, with the more economic value retained in the country, this is what we want.
Yeah.
Then the semiconductor fabs, we should be looking at maybe 6 to 8 fabs announced and progressed or some operational by 2030. Because that creates a critical mass for the rest of the ecosystem, for the entire chemicals, gases, everything. Those all indigenous thing will thrive. They will get a ready market. We should have more than 10 OSATs, assembly and test operations and advanced packaging. That's how we should look at as an outcome going forward. We should have several of those, maybe 25, 50 fabulous, successful companies. Those are able to make their chips, brand it, and sell it in India and outside in India. And plus, most important, the talent.
Yeah.
Worldwide, there is a possibility and expectation that we will have 1 million shortage of the talent, 1 million shortage of the desired talent, not as the only talented people. They exist everywhere in the world, including in India, but the right skill sets. So we have that opportunity to really skill them what is required by the world and for the India. So that's how I see the success. Overall, my last closing comment is the India's semiconductor success should not be measured only by a factory or a one company. Will be measured by the vibrant ecosystem that has got designs, innovations, manufacturing, and exports. So it is not only building fab, but building the ecosystem. I would say India is uniquely positioned because of our world-class talent, the strong policy support, and a rapidly growing market, along with, I call it the chip currency of trust, which we have already gained in this sector as a part of the supply chain resilience or a geopolitical situation. And if we continue to execute, which I am very sure, with a speed and a purpose, what we have demonstrated, better than that, the next chapter of the global semiconductor industry will be India at a center.
Wonderfully put, sir. That brings a smile to my face, and pretty much I'm sure every viewer who's watching this and will continue to watch this. Ashok sir, it's been a true pleasure and an honor to have you here with us exclusively on Front Page. And all we have to say to you is that you have spent 3 decades building an ecosystem, and today I do believe that that sense of passion only grows, and it's individuals like you and your team which is actually at the center of this and ensuring that we are making a huge global footprint as we move forward. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time and also bringing the messaging across to the masses, and this is where we really need help from people like you to really get the message across to the entire country that India is really on a right track of the semiconductor journey, and we make progress and we make success, and best is yet to come.
Fabulous, sir. Very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, all I can say is it is truly, in Ashok sir's word, a chip revolution. And I'd like to end with this: Viva Revolution. Well, please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM.
AI prototypes are everywhere, but very few professionals know how to deploy AI where businesses actually operate. Introducing the Certified Forward Deployed AI Specialist by Adasi, a certification designed for the new generation of AI professionals who can bridge technology, deployment, operations, and business execution in real-world enterprise environments. Because modern AI success is no longer just building models. It's about making AI work inside production systems, customer workflows, and enterprise operations. The future belongs to engineers who can take AI from demo to deployment. This certification is ideal for AI engineers, solutions architects, technical consultants, Gen AI practitioners, developers who want to move beyond experimentation and deploy AI systems that create measurable business impact. The future of AI belongs to professionals who can take intelligence from concept to real-world execution.
There are a lot of models available on Amazon. You can use any model. For this particular workshop, I'll go with Llama 3. It's the simplest, easiest, and in terms of cost, no problem. But yes, if you are an organization, you want to go and work, you can use Anthropic's Claude model. You can use any of these models. So this is the 2ML file. And what you need, all of you, is you can see there is a Docker file also created. There is a Pi project created. There is requirement. And this is the environment. So this is the app where you have a Pi cache. So this is your cache. Init.py will not have anything, that is for initialization. This is your actual agent script. And then here you have got a README, which you can use automatically running in Docker. And these things come automatically. You can click on data store. You can click on the tool name. So this is tool 1. It's a data store. You can give the description. Now I'm going with the lowest score in terms of grounding. So we have low confidence that the response is grounded.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. I'm Antara and you're watching Point Break. A vegetable vendor in Bengaluru went viral a few weeks ago. He was doing his usual rounds. He was walking around the market. He was sorting through the produce, haggling, negotiating. All this while he was wearing a small camera on top of his head. Now, most people thought it was funny, another bizarre internet moment. I thought it was preview because what that vendor was doing, whether he knew it or not, he was essentially training and teaching a machine how to be human. Every movement, every decision, every adjustment he made was being recorded so that a robot somewhere could learn to do what he was doing. And we have been here before. Indian workers trained call center systems, their voices, their scripts, their hundreds and thousands of hours of customer interactions. All of that became the data that automated them. Now, Indian annotators, of course, spent years labeling images, tagging objects, drawing boxes around faces, building the vision AI that now runs without them. The products carried American names, the IP stayed in San Francisco, the profits went to the shareholders in New York. And now, physical AI wants India's bodies. Our farmers, our warehouse workers, our cooks, our nurses, moving, demonstrating, performing so that robots can learn to replace them. The question is not whether India will become the world's training ground for physical AI. It probably will with the pace that it's going at. The question is, are we walking into the same trap again? That is the question that essentially we are trying to answer in this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Antara. This is Point Break. Let's get right into it. I have with me three guests today who are inside the story from very different vantage points. Maithili Ramesh, my first guest, who co-founded NextWealth, which runs AI data operations across small town India with thousands of workers, the majority of them being women. She, in fact, has built something real in places that had absolutely nothing. But she is also right at the center of the tension that we are going to explore today. Maithili, welcome to Point Break. It's wonderful to have you here. My second guest today is Manish Agarwal, who co-founded Human Labs, which is literally in the business of collecting first-person human behavioral data, what people see, how they move, how they interact with the physical world, and really turning that into training data for AI systems. Manish, it's wonderful to have you here as well. And
thank you, Antara.
Pleasure. And last but not the least, I have with me Saran Balasundaram, who founded the Han Digital Group, which has spent over 20 years tracking India's technology workforce, what it earns, how it's treated, what happens to it when the next wave of technology arrives. That is essentially what he's doing. Saran, welcome to Point Break.
Oh, thank you, Antara.
You know, I'm going to put something rather bluntly on the table right at the very start, because I believe you three are the people in the room who are actually the ones inside this industry, who are understanding the very ins and outs of this industry. And to be honest, I don't want a reassuring answer. I want an honest one here. Call centers, BPO, data annotation, and now physical AI training. Would you say that this is just the next chapter of the same story? That India provides the cheap labor, someone else builds the product and keeps the profits. Would you say that that is how it is right now? Maithili, if you want to start.
Okay. Thanks, Antara. I think, like you rightly pointed out, this is an evolution. And while people talk about saying that, starting from automation to IT and BPO services to human in the loop for data annotation, data labeling, essentially in India, we've been doing work from the AI development to the deployment lifecycle. And that has involved data collection, curation, annotation, labeling, validation, testing, and real-time exception handling. So while that has happened and now physical AI has come in, I think there is a need, while we can call it as cheap labor, there is a need for human in the loop or what do you call it? Human in the loop in terms of because of the volumes that are there, the volumes that are going to be there with respect to AI or with respect to physical AI, you need that human in the loop. And therefore, you need that human experience. And for that, there is going to be volumes. And to handle those volumes, you need a workforce which is able to do it with the sort of diversity that India has, with the sort of complexity that India has. There is C.K. Prahlad had come up with that term of fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. And he said, if you can innovate for the poorest of poor, that's what he said, then you have innovated for the rest of the world. So if we are able to train these robots with the skill data sets of work that we do with the complexity and the diversity that India has, then that is what is going to make these robotic or physical AI very robust in the world. And therefore, the work that we do is not cheap labor. The work that we do has a great or tremendous value into how these robots are going to be trained and how they are going to behave.
Okay.
That would be my take on it, yeah.
All right, Maithili. Thank you for that clarity. Manish, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think 3 points. One, in my understanding is, all of this which you are talking is towards ensuring that the readiness for deployment can get accelerated. Now, when you're talking deployment will happen in certain environment with a context of domain and geography. And in my opinion, while we think that India data will drive the world, I think it's the biggest myth or lie which we are really trying to please ourselves.
Okay.
Now, if you want to really look at a use case of robots helping in houses in US, the entire context of that house is very different from an Indian house, right? So while we may say that Indian houses are collecting data and all of it, honestly, in the data pyramid, very soon, non-contextual data will become not completely useless, but diminished, very, very marginal utility.
All right, Manish. So, Saran, you agree with that? Anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just take a step back and start thinking about, as a whole world, we have about 6 billion internet users today, right? And historically, we've been using browsers to search for some information, right? And in the last few years, we started using AI systems or probably LLMs to start searching and rather prompting, right? So essentially, from browser searching and going to a AI or a LLM and putting prompts to ask for the query, right? Hence, there are a lot of learning which is required by those systems. In the cloud era, enterprises accumulated data. In today's AI era, they accumulate learning. Where do they get those learning from, right? And currently, what juncture we are in the AI data training evolution, there are about 4 stages, and I'll just take a step back and then explain you what are those. Till about 2025, the digital knowledge of AI prevailed, right? Through text, through images, audio, video, and some of the websites, scientific papers, publications, so on and so forth, right? And right now, as rightly we are talking about, physical AI is existing today, and where we will have to educate or teach the systems and machines. And in your question, you talked about, is it real or is it another story that we have seen it in the past? But certainly it is a real story that we are experimenting here. And it is not just for India, right? Today we are training the models for a global market, right? And we also procure some of the data. We collect a lot more informations from various data sources, so on and so forth. And I believe that at least for the next 6 to 10 years time, we will see physical AI existing within our reach, and to make what we call it as a weaker AI to a stronger AI, right? I think that's my starting viewpoint on this particular topic. So probably I will have some data points to throw as we go along.
Certainly, Saran. Certainly. Thank you for that, Saran. Let's also establish what is actually happening first. Robots cannot learn to do physical tasks, right? They cannot learn to do physical tasks from the internet. They need to watch humans in order to sort of replicate what the humans are doing in the first place, right? And I'm talking in terms of real environment, right? Real environment, real unpredictability. Now, India has something that no lab can manufacture, right? When I say that, I'm talking about scale, I'm talking about diversity, I'm talking about complexity across environments that exist nowhere else in this very condition. Manish, my question is to you here. Walk me through what physical AI actually needs. What is really missing from simulation and the internet that makes real human demonstrations so valuable, especially when we are talking about physical AI? And why is it that India is specifically interesting for this?
So Antara, you used that physical AI needs a lot of videos and watch. Just want to correct you. I don't think just by watching or recording video, you can really learn. We as humans, our learning process is a multisensorial process. We run from sounds, sight, touch, motion. And that's exactly the same thing you have to feed into models which can train robots. Because the force which you need to hold a plastic bottle versus a metal bottle, the force which you need to kind of take from different objects of different ductility, the kind of use cases in which you may require different joints of human body, different things come into play. So your motion will come into play, your touch will come into play, your actions will come into play. How you listen in a factory, when you listen to a machine, you understand the machine is working and what you need to do. So in my opinion, physical AI data, as Saran said, there is no, you had internet for code and text LLMs to do, but there is no internet data of multi-sensorial, multi-modality to teach a robot how to behave in a real world environment. We humans take a lot of things for granted, which we have to really now are training for a new civilization to really get born, right? And that's what we are really doing. So you need to have a multi-sensorial, multi-modality data which does not exist, which is why you need to collect. Now to your second question about role of India. India provides massive diversity. It provides obviously a cost arbitrage because the diversity of functions can also happen in North America, but the dollar value per hour would be much, much higher versus in India. But as I said, please do not underestimate. Like as humans, we adapt to a particular environment, to a particular context. That environment and context will play a very important role in the training of these models for deployment readiness. So it's not that India will have an English-speaking advantage of BPO. If you are looking at use cases, you have to think of an use case and then think of the environment and then think of what is the proxy geography which I can take the data for to ensure that I can train it at scale with diversity with optimal cost.
All right. There are a lot of parameters in question, is what you're saying.
Yep. And India is not uniquely poised to serve all use cases.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
all right.
you are.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Maithili, my next question is to you. What is your workforce actually being asked to do for physical AI? What does a typical day for you look like, for one of your workers doing this kind of work? What are they actually doing? If you could walk me through that.
Yeah, so I can give examples of what we do. We are not doing too much right now in physical AI, but let me give an example of, let's say, driverless cars.
Yeah.
So obviously the AI algorithm has to learn in terms of saying what are the objects that is coming in front of the car, right, in a driverless car. But you get a flood, just to going back to the point on, you need the domain understanding, the area that you're working in. You need the unpredictability of the environment to be taught to the AI. You need to have the context of what is being done, because it's not an SOP that is being done. It varies from person to person, road to road, culture to culture, because when you train on the different environments in terms of the geography or the countries, that varies. Person to person, it varies. How each person reacts in a particular situation, same person also varies. So what you're trying to do here is to actually try to take those complexities. So in this case of driverless cars, you have, video feeds coming in of, the car going in, and the sensor is, laser actually is sensing the environment, and you get these images and you get these videos. And then it's just not about annotating, which is what was earlier the approach of saying that this is a car, this is a truck, this is a billboard, and that was pure just data annotation. But now you're also going to simulate an environment where there is suddenly a pram coming in front. So what happens? How does the person react? What does the person do? How does the AI system for the car support him or her in terms of the reaction that happens? So the behavior or the behavioral experience of the human is the next step that we are actually, this is one example, the next step that we are doing in terms of the training. So there are two essential elements to this, and I've talked about this earlier, saying that, while we all talk about the cheap labor part of it, I think we should just get away from that mindset, because I think India has a potential to be the AI factory. Why? Because it's not only the AI model development, but the fact that when you're getting all this data collection that is happening with respect to whether it is driverless cars, or you talked about the street vendor, or those people folding cloth and so on, there is so much of data that is going to come in. That data, we have the opportunity to collect that data because of the diversity, the complexity, the volumes, and the talent people that we have, the skills that we have, and we can do it at a lower cost. That data needs to be cleansed, curated, validated, trained on the AI model, needs to be tested, and when it is actually deployed, handling it in real time. So therefore, this whole cycle, India has the potential to be able to do it. So whether it is the training data sets for the AI in the development to the deployment lifecycle, or the real-time exception handling when it is deployed, some, you can take a next 12th person in any of our centers would be doing work in terms of training the data, as well as when it goes into real-time. And let me give another example. So when you go to Airbnb, let's say in the US, you would give your passport, and then the system there would pick up your photograph and the passport and would match and say whether it's the same person or not. So that comes to a platform, and then it comes to us. The human part comes in here because you have to now validate and say whether it is the same person. The AI is able to do to a certain extent. But your passport picture and you there are a little bit different. And countries to countries, the people are, again, the facial features are different. So then the human the person has to actually then validate. And these are things that we are now training the AI model to say, what is it you look for? Which is not clearly an SOP type of thing, right? How do I know it is the same person? So those are the things we are training the AI for. And we are saying that this is what you look for. This is how I identified that this is the same person, apart from the standard stuff of, whether the eyes are the same, this is the same, the key point annotation and so on. So I think that's an example of, you asked me about what is an example of some of the work that we do. So this is an example.
All right.
And then when it actually gets deployed, right, you are actually needing to get back to the model in 85 seconds because that person is waiting there at the Airbnb for the. So when it goes into deployment, the real-time aspect also becomes very important.
Right. Thank you for that, Maithili. Thank you for those examples. Saran, you have watched India's workforce absorb wave after wave of technology outsourcing, right?
Correct.
When you look at this new category of AI, physical AI training work, what does it really remind you of? You've seen the ins and outs of this.
Okay. So we have been tracking this Indian IT BPM ecosystem for the last 2 decades, right? Today, the workforce size is about 4.65 million, right? Out of which close to about 8 lakh AI professionals, right? That's the data point normally floating around in India from various data sources. And apart from those AI professionals, the new category that we are talking about, who is powering this physical AI, data annotations, and so on and so forth. Currently, we have about 2.25 to 2.5 lakh workforce. Currently doing the way how Maithili pointed out, doing annotation, sourcing, and training the models. And every data sets, either you generate by yourself, or already the customer is going to give you a data which is picked up from various available data sources, curated in Africa or maybe curated somewhere else, basically with a lot of, multilingual, requirements. It comes to us for crunching, or it comes to us for, validation, so on and so forth. So this 2.5 lakh of, resources currently is actually doing it. And one of the interesting trend that I have seen in the last few years, remote villages is actually, able to pick up these roles and able to train the models, right? So today, if you pick up a new kid coming out of, Bangalore or a tier 1, cities and try to give them a repetitive job, which is just keep doing it for 25 times a minute, or probably about 1 million times in a week time, and they're not ready to do it being there in tier 1, and hence we started exploring locations like Coimbatore, Tirunelveli, and slightly beyond Tirunelveli as well. So as a market watcher, we have seen this ML ops. I mean, we typically call this industry as machine learning ops. Some people may call it as AI ops, right?
Yeah.
And we are the backbone of machines to get trained on, and overall talent transformation. If I have to see, so those are the numbers that I could vouch, and we predict that this 2.5 will go to about 1 million by 2032, right? And this may not be a full-time role. See, today you would have seen last 2 years' time how the talent workforce dynamics changing, which is very rampant. And today somebody is coming back, and we at Hunt Digital, we pick up full-time employees, we pick up fixed-term contractors, we pick up some of the gig workforces to do very, very specific activities, right? So at a larger scheme of doing things, this 1 million that we predict could be combination of gig workforce, contractual, and full-time. And you would have seen a lot more layoffs, which is happening in the market for the last 18 months time. And whoever is laid off, if they have a common sense with domain expertise, they are our go-to people for hiring, right? And currently we have hundreds of people coming in from various industry. Need not have to be engineering, need not have to be commerce or science or arts, but a combination of these talent who prefer to come and work with us, and they enjoy doing this on a day-to-day basis because they see that whatever that they're training is actually going to come into real world system at some point in time, right? So I think from a talent evolution, we are currently at 2.5 lakh, and we anticipate 10 lakh by 2032. And very specifically physical AI, lot more gig workforces like nurses, like physiotherapists and doctors and legal professionals. They're all going to come into a play as we progress further.
Okay, all right, Saran. Thank you for answering.
Add to what Saran is saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, there are two things that are happening. One is like Saran was pointing out, the data that is required to train the physical AI is not necessarily restricted to the BPO industry. It's across industries. Like he pointed out, nurses, healthcare, if you want to do robotic surgeries. So there is healthcare, there is manufacturing, there is garment manufacturing, so many of the other industries. So one, the data collection opportunity is across industries and for the masses who have the opportunity to learn because they're going to train these AI models. So number one is that. Number two, once that data is collected, to curate it and make it usable by the AI algorithm is the second part of where the workforce is required. So these two are actually contributing to the volumes that will get generated. Therefore, that is point number one. Point number two is what Saran rightly said, is the workforce that we have is 60% is in these small towns, right? And if we are able to leverage that workforce and create a model for India by which, let's say, the cities, the top 10 cities, where you have the capability and skills, higher-end capability and skills are available, make those as the hubs and a place where you can have AI development happening for robotic and physical AI, create that as a hubs for development of those models, and then keep the spokes as the small towns for the workers, the human in the loop part required to do this validation and testing. But while we say workers and human in the loop part in the small towns, it is not low-end work. It is a lot of judgmental work. It is complex work, because whatever can be automated is being automated by AI. So the complex work is what is coming here. The judgmental work is what is coming here. And therefore, there is an opportunity for a model of a hub and spoke of cities and small towns, because the workforce that would be required for the spoke, for the annotation, for validation is really huge. And the volumes are huge because of the first part, where we talked about this is not restricted to the BPO industry, but across industries. And then the second part, which is the curation, testing, and deployment.
Right. All right, Maithili. Thank you for adding that. I also want to steer the ship here a little bit, and I want to talk about the Amazon Just Walk Out story. I think it's worth putting it on the table. It was marketed as cashierless, AI-powered shopping, right? What it actually was workers in India reviewing store footage. They were labeling transactions. Now, the gap between the marketing and the reality was pretty significant, I would say. Because physical AI training, I believe, risks the same gap. Again, going back to the farmer wearing a head camera to, sort of teach a harvesting robot, or a cook demonstrating recipes so a kitchen robot can, sort of replicate them, or a warehouse worker, for that matter, moving boxes so an autonomous system can learn the task. Now, these workers are generating intelligence, real, valuable, commercially significant intelligence, I would say. And in most cases, they are being paid a daily wage for it, with probably no share of what gets built from their demonstration. So, Saran, I want to ask this question to you. Who is really protecting these workers? Because right now, a person doing physical AI demonstration work in India, are they an employee? Are they a gig worker? Are they a contractor? What does their legal status actually look like?
Okay, good question. So it's a combination of all.
Okay,
right? So when a customer is, giving work to us, right, as a service provider, the first step is, demonstrate we have a capability to do this, right? Which is pilot phase. So if it is a pilot phase, we will pick up some of the best out of best team members to ensure, people are able to pick up the sensors and wear it. And so the way how, Manish pointed out, various sensory organs or probably joints and various, a level of involvement for those, physical AI training, right? So some bit of that initially, we are able to do it in-house. And again, the environment, what is required to do this, there is a bit of a, investment required, capex heavy. Normally customer funds it, right? So one of the experiments or examples or a pilot that currently we are doing it for a coffee estate. There's a very large conglomerate, a customer. He has actually identified thousands and thousands of, acres elsewhere, not in India. And they're all plantations, coffee plantations. And they're actually giving, equipments, devices for those, blue collared, workers. Their job is just to go daily basis, and their routine is to wear that, just go record it. Right. Okay. So they will wear a, camera, the way how, you have narrated the story when we started this, right? And it is really happening, right? Yeah. And as an organization, we are just trying to connect the dots and ensure to work with the customer and collect that particular, data and put it into a system, annotate that and train very rudimentary model right now, right? So this is one of the use case. And these blue collars who are actually now working in the field, obviously they will be a daily wage workers, right? The life cycle that I'm talking about. Yeah. And just on top of that, right? Once if the data has come here, probably the requirement is to upload or rather to teach the model with, let's say, 14 million data sets for a pilot model to pass, right? And the time that is, really required to do that will be less than a week or probably less than 10 days time. So hence, I would need large workforce to train that, right? Probably decluttering some data and then annotate that, put it into, various use cases, etc. Where we will be using gig workforce because there are a lot of, gig workforce clusters that we have it in India. right? And we are able to locate that, and that is where personally I am so much excited to go to this, village BPOs and to see. For you to believe it, you will have to go to those some of the cities or some of the villages around Madurai or border of Karnataka or Andhra Pradesh, and I've seen some companies nearer to Darjeeling doing this. Right. So to answer your question, combination of full-time workers, gig workers, predominantly I would say for this physical AI, the way how Maithili pointed out, they wouldn't even know for what they are wearing it. Right. Okay. At the end of the day, probably they'll be compensated with probably few hundred more or few thousand more, depending on what level of activity that they are, involved with and what level of equipments that they are actually handling. Right. And that's how, I would want to, put it.
All right. But Saran, I would like to ask a follow-up question here. So are you saying that that disclosure is not exactly happening? I mean, are the workers being told that explicitly? Is that in the picture?
Yeah, workers will be see for us, if we are able to do it and we further outsource it to certain, consulting organizations respect to certain countries, they are being told by those employers, because those are all in a controlled environment. Their employers are actually, getting that consent from them. It is actually an opt-in for those guys who are actually wearing those data points, right? So this is just a gig workforce or a daily wage workforce, curated by a set of group of individuals or group of companies, right? Now coming back to a lab environment, like the way how we are planning to do it in future, and we are still talking to a few customers, like that, where we are required to set up a lab, right? In that case, we will make use of our own employees. So we will have NDAs sign up with them, right? And the place selection also matters quite a lot. So it is not going to be like a shared or a co-working space to offer such kind of a labs. So they might need a private place or a, converting warehouses into, such kind of, places to train the model. And what I'm talking is a physical model training.
Understood.
Right.
Yeah.
And where the customer might be there to educate us, or probably if there are tools which probably Manish might develop such kind of a tools, and their representatives will be there in that controlled environment to teach the model. So obviously the learning will be coming from them, but they are briefed well in advance. And if required, we are doing some paperwork with them, NDAs with them. And if it is just a period of time work, and maybe they wouldn't know why we are doing it, but there is an SOP given. You know what? You're working as an annotator, and use this SOP, do this. Right? And I think with the current evolution, this is exactly what we are seeing it. But I also envision that in the next, few years' time, or probably it is already there on the way by Meta, there will be a physical standard framework, right? Physical intelligence framework. And probably it will be by consortium, by large, frontier, companies and stuff. And maybe a lot more, regulations might come in future.
All right. Thank you, Saran, for answering that, with so much clarity. I want to digress here just a little bit. In terms of the conversation that we are having, I believe every action a person is performing today could potentially teach, future AI systems something valuable, right? Manish, my question here is to you. Would you say that behavioral intelligence could become a new economic asset?
I think too much of high-sounding words. So,
basically, would you say that this is something that could drive the economy forward, especially with the pace at which we are going at right now? Would you say that it could become an asset class, like human intelligence by itself could become an asset class?
Antara, I think I just want to kind of break it down. Human brain
Yeah.
And then thinking that humanoid brain will be even at, let's say, 50% of that in next 3 years is not going to happen, and everybody is clear about it.
Okay.
So it's very, very far. Thus 10, 15 years or more. Today, the entire attempt is to teach a low-level agency to a mid-level agency. So that's what you are trying to teach. And what you're trying to remember, like we humans have an episode, through that combination of multi-sensory capture of that episode, that if that episode becomes a data in the bank, because of the high-speed compute, the machine is able to detect a pattern and take a certain output which the machine has been trained, right? So fundamentally, what you are trying to do is you're trying to feed millions and millions of such episodes across M into N into P combinations.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what you are doing today, right? Now, as the compute keeps improving, the pre-training will move to fine-tuning, will move to human verification, reinforced learning. It will move into more skilled. So it is not going to be that for always you will have volumes of just data randomly. Like I showed some videos. Honestly, lots of those videos are useless because the depth of the human head and the task being done is so little for anybody to kind of really figure out, because you need XYZ coordinates.
Okay.
So it is not just random data, you can just keep pulling it out. You need to really think how the machine learns. And I think while we have spoken a lot of human labor and human thing, I think the beautiful advantage which we have today in India is to really build a global data intelligence layer which can power any of the labs which is working, right? Now, you could really create a playbook from India to how do you capture diverse environments? How do you really build processing pipelines on their diverse environments? And then kind of extend that playbook to similar kind of geographies which are proxy to actual environments. Now, it could be latter or it could be Southeast Asia, but fundamentally the robots will get deployed either where the human is expensive or scarce or human life is hazardous. And in those markets, you find proxy, but you have an opportunity to leverage your human workforce to build an intelligence platform, build playbooks for that intelligence platforms to constantly evolve. And I think that is what we could do, right? Sitting here and leverage our unfair advantage.
This is in fact something, Manish, I wanted to build on also, because this is a genuine case for India, right? One of world's largest workforces, right? One of, I believe, millions of factories, farms, warehouses, restaurants, all generating real world behavioral data today. Manish, my question again is to you. Is India's opportunity bigger in manufacturing robots or is it in training them? Because I believe those two are very from very different economic positions, right? And what is it that makes India's diversity really valuable compared to what, say, a US or a China can offer?
Let me throw a third option for you.
Yes, please.
Right. If we believe that the brain is going to be very distant dream, and what you can create is eyes, ears, touch first, but the spontaneity of decision making will stay with human. And as you rightly said, India is one of those countries which has massive amount of skilled labor.
Yeah.
Now, I was reading somewhere 2030, there's going to be acute shortage of welders in US, right? Now, if you have a skilled welder sitting in India, through a operation, think of some magical operation where he is managing 50 welding arms in Texas, where they are doing the task which they can do, but when they are stuck, the welder in India can talk to the robo and guide them sitting here. Now that really accelerates the deployment and creates massive amount of value unlocking for the skilled workforce in India, which today they may be getting a very low dollar per hour. Now suddenly their dollar per hour could increase. And the skilled workforce which we have created over the last 30, 40 years in non-IT space can suddenly find value in the global space. All of us, at least people like me, are product of the IT skill sets which we got created, right? Now, there could be an opportunity for us to create a non-IT skill sets workforce which could really shine and be valuable for the rest of the world where there is not so much of skilled people available.
Absolutely.
So I think that is the opportunity for India. Either build a intelligence layer for the world or build a massive amount of multidisciplinary skilled workforce, which is creating through a teleoperations or some hybrid structures of actual environment deployment where robots, spontaneity, decision making can be done by human. Rest of the stuff which can, and then machine is constantly learning with that. So the skill level requirement will keep increasing, and that's what India could really give.
Absolutely, Manish. Yes, please, sir.
Antara, I want to just go back to your last question. The new asset class that you talked about, right?
Yes.
So I have an optic to kind of reflect on. Okay,
please. Yeah.
So I believe that outsourcing destinations like India, Philippines, and some of the other Central and Eastern European countries, we might have certainly a greater advantage to create asset class. Some of the examples that I want to throw. See, currently, look at doctor-patient conversations, right? So currently, if I'm investing, or if as an organization, if we are investing to record, let's say 20,000 hours of, doctor-patient conversation, right?
Okay, yeah.
In a physical intelligence, right? There could be a recording, or there could be audio recording or a video recording, right? And these data is actually an asset for me, right? So I would call this as one of the asset class for a services organization, right? Then I can think of another example, which is employer-employee conversations, or probably employer-job seeker conversation, right? Or a recruiter job seeker, conversations. And let's say today, if I have several million data sets of this, we traditionally in our parlance, Maithili will know it, we call it as off-the-shelf records, right? So a lot of global companies are selling datas just in less than a week time. You can't create that data. So we invest into creating such kind of a physical intelligence, data. And I would rather look at it and say that could be my new physical intelligence data asset, right? And probably I will use it to create my own model, or probably, give it to platform companies, who might be in need of it, right? So that's one of my reflection on. I'm very sure these kind of physical intelligence could create a lot more data or a class of assets, which we can reuse it, or platform companies can reuse it. I don't know whether it makes sense for you. And what is your optic? I didn't know, but I believe that certainly it creates a lot more, assets for countries like India.
All right. Thank you, Saran. Thank you for your input there. Maithili, I want to ask the next question to you. Next Wealth, I believe, started with back office work, pivoted to AI 5 years ago, and now 70% of revenue comes from US clients. Now, you've essentially built the model that this entire industry is trying to replicate. Could India's data industry become, genuinely large export sector, or do you think it's, always going to be a service to someone else's product? Maithili.
Large what sector you said?
Sorry?
What is the first part of what you said? Will it become a large what?
I'm asking if it could become a large export sector, or do you think it is, always going to be a service to somebody else's product? Was my question.
I think those two are not really contradictory, because if you actually look at all the services that is being done today in the AI space, we talked about some of the work in terms of, LiDAR, semantic segmentation, data annotation, labeling, key point annotation, training data sets or skill data sets, like various skills or situations that Saran was talking about that you train the robots on. I mean, if you call all of that as services, that services is going to be exported. And therefore, I don't see a contradiction in terms of that. So a lot of the work that we do, for example, it's not actually 70%, it's more than 70%. Or the work that we do is for the US companies. A lot of them have their GCCs based here. The GCCs here are developing those AI models. So I can give an example of what we do for one of the largest retail organizations in the world. They are a Fortune top 3 organization. So they have billions of data sets. Now they want to be the cheapest online retailer, and if they want to be the cheapest online retailer, they have to keep comparing their products with that of competition. And this is a dynamic pricing situation. So somebody is running a promotion, so they have to run a promotion. Somebody is out of stock, so they need to push that stock. So things like that changes on a daily basis for those billions of products. So what happens at that time? Obviously, the category managers who are managing the pricing cannot do this manually. So the AI algorithm runs it. AI algorithm does the comparison and then suggests the pricing that needs to happen. So here is an example of how the AI does part of it, but nobody's quality of content is really good or great. And therefore since the content quality is not good, we don't know whether it's comparing the right t-shirt to the right t-shirt and taking the right pricing decisions. So in those cases, the model needs to be the output of the model needs to be validated and the model has to be retrained. This is why you were wrong in saying these 2 t-shirts are the same. These are the reasons why it is wrong. And this is what you need to learn. So that's one of the things that we do of retraining. So if you see what is happening there, it is not a services versus export. This is services that you are doing for export, even though the GCCs are actually based here. Because a lot of the work actually comes from the US to the GCCs, and the GCCs are developing those AI models. And for those AI models, testing and training comes to us.
All right, Maithili.
I want to give another thing. You were talking about Amazon Go.
Yes.
Right? What exactly happened around that and the legal aspect of it.
Yes.
We do work for another company which is doing exactly what Amazon Go does. So a lot of the reports that are coming about what Amazon Go is doing is, I think, a little bit colored. The reason being the work that we do. So you go to a shop, this is a pop-up, it could be a pop-up stores in a football field, or it could be any other stores. So they have about 1,000 stores there. And they have these shelves. So they have cameras of those shelves. So they know when a person goes in, somebody is picking up an object and taking it out. What we do is triaging the output of the camera, the positions of the products, the person picking up, the movement of the hand, etc. We annotate all these and do the triaging and figure out what is a product that is getting picked up or placed back on the shelf. That we train the AI algorithm. And then when they walk out, they are billed automatically, right? So when the billing happens, there is a testing to the extent of 10% of the output, which is validated to say whether they have been billed correctly or not, and then training back the algorithm whether it is correct, not correct, and why it was not correct. So that is done for 10%. So the workforce which was here doing that for Amazon Go, or the work that we are doing for this company, is training that AI algorithm on the key point annotation of how the objects are being picked. They are looking at the images of the sensors and then saying what is the object that is getting picked, training that algorithm. And then only 10% of whatever is getting built is actually getting validated here by humans, which is anyway needed. Human in the loop is needed. So it was not that this whole thing was being run by humans. There was an AI algorithm, but that AI algorithm's output had to be validated to the extent of about 10%, and that was what was being done here. So it sort of roundabout answers the question that you were asking.
Yeah. Thank you, Maithili, for that. I also want to talk about who really owns the intelligence, because if thousands of Indian workers, demonstrate how to sort mangoes, or how to navigate a crowded market, or I don't know, how to fold a specific kind of fabric, and a robo is learning from all of that, who has really created the intelligence that the robot now has? Is it the company that has built the robot? Is it the company that has, collected the data? Or is it the workers whose, decisions and their movements and their skills are becoming a training set? Manish, my question here is to you. When a company sells data to a frontier AI company, who is really owning it at that point? And the worker who generated it, does that worker has a claim on it?
Antara, it's a very simple analogy. You have some produce happening in some farm, which gets collected in the wholesale mandi. In the wholesale mandi, somebody buys it, takes it to some processing plant, does some processing, exports it to somebody who's making a jam out of it, right? And then that company is doing marketing and selling the jam to the consumer. That's the whole thing which is happening here. Because ultimately it's a consumer product which is being sold. And instead of a vegetable or a fruit, it's a data, right? So the time I have the data, I have the owner. When I sell you the data, I take the money. It's a pure simple. Then you're transferring your right to somebody else. Now somebody else takes that data. Now depending upon how many layers do they add on top of it, each layer adds certain amount of value to that. Now, if you have built a system which captures the derivative intelligence, that intelligence is your IP. And whether you're selling the intelligence, you're selling the raw data, then that model is creating a derivative of it to train the model to the consumer. So I think at every juncture, there is a transaction happening, and that's a value chain which has been a centuries old system, which will continue here. So this is not a new thing which is happening. Fundamentally, somebody has an asset, and that asset is a raw asset, and raw asset gets processed into a final product, and that final product is getting sold.
Before I let you go, I want to understand one last thing from you. Can people realistically understand the data that has been taken and being used to train all these robots? Can people realistically understand that?
My question is, what do you want them to understand?
As in terms of privacy, in terms of the kind of data, the amount of data that they are putting forth, do they have an ability to sort of track it, to sort of know what data that they are giving out?
So, Antara, three things. Privacy, no lab wants. Nobody wants to capture the private information or personal information.
Absolutely.
Right. So, that's one. And even when you are collecting, if by mistake you collect, you have to blur it or delete it because that is not needed.
All right.
The second is everybody is curious. They ask, even in simple thing, "Bhaiya, kyun le rahe ho?" So you explain to them, "Kyun le rahe ho?" "Bhaiya, hum robot ko train karane ja rahe hain." Right? So they understand, because it's not that they are waiting for 6 hours, they will not ask you any question. Right? So they absolutely understand what it is going for. In fact, they are very curious and excited. Uska hoga kya? Right? So when you open and show them what Maithili was talking about, कि देखिए आपके हाथ ऐसे move कर रहे हैं, ये data बन रहा है, ये चीजें बन रही है, they feel very excited कि this is happening, right? Now beyond that, I think that is the level of curiosity they have. What is that? Will you do with it, right? The friction, if it's a friction of their discomfort, they will not do it because no site owner will let their main thing get jeopardized because of a sundry rounding of figure of economic benefit they will get, right? So in my opinion, the curiosity is actually some of them which are pretty smart. They said, "Bhaiya, hum aise kaam kare kya? Zyada aapko badhiya data milega." Right? So I think the on ground, what they want to understand is koi nai technology is going to come in, and they are being, it's not, they are curious to know what is going to happen here, right?
Right.
And not 10 years later, but aap is video karoge kya?
Makes sense, Manish. Thank you so much for that, Manish. In fact, Manish, Maithili, Saran, this has been a riveting conversation. It's been a very educational one at that. And for everybody who is tuned in right now, India could become the world's training ground for physical AI, given the diversity, given the scale, given the complexity of our working environments. That is genuinely valuable. More valuable than the companies collecting this data are willing to say out loud, probably. Now, the question is whether India learns from 30 years of contributing intelligence to other people's product, or whether we walk into this next chapter with our eyes open and our terms on the table. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. I'm Antara. This is Point Break. We'll see you again next time.